Here we go. We got the fucking, yeah, master. Let's go. Oh shit. Whoa, wait. Why? Oh boy. Why am I here? It's so dark. Go. So we're playing on master difficulty, which basically means we die in like 3 hits from everything. What do you think of H3H3 themselves? I don't think H3H3 is like a full-on reactionary or anything, but H3H3 probably has done some pretty dumb shit. I think one of the worst things H3H3 ever did was actually normalizing Joey's salads. I don't understand this game? Yeah, so let me explain this game to anyone who doesn't know. You're in one big set world that was randomly generated. You're 2D. Everything is 2D, and there's a fuck ton of stuff to mine and things to fight. You get better and better gear, and the game escalates in difficulty and severity and complexity until eventually you're fighting space aliens with like a rocket ship that fires missiles, you know? Is this just Minecraft 2D? No, because Minecraft has shit combat. Alright. Oh my god, Awomain. Nice, Sanderhall. That's actually fucking rad. Okay, we want to put this here. Is the Terraria world infinite? No, there are walls, but it is very large, so... Okay, so we need to decide... Okay, we have an extractinator, which is actually pretty nice. I'm not going to go over the Rem Destiny thing, because I don't know anything about it at the moment. Is this a large world? Yes. Do you think Keemstar should be cancelled for what he's accused of doing? Keemstar should have been cancelled ages ago. The dude is a literal fucking scumbag. Keemstar is a horrible human being. Like... Yeah, like, Keemstar is, like openly, what has he done? Just, you can watch the H3H3 video, I guess. Alright, what is the, what tech tier? Artemis spawn of Zeus, you keep trying to push this, but it's not going to go where you want. Thoughts on Leafy is here? Isn't Leafy is here also a piece of shit? I don't fucking know, dude. I don't keep up with these fucking YouTube personalities. Don't need all that dirt. Hasty blowpipe, fallen star cactus. Okay, what exactly? Keemstar is regularly on the kill stream? Yeah, that makes sense. Didn't he used to, like, scream the N-word? Yeah, he's a horrible human being. But he's always gonna have, like, 13-year-olds that are following him, so not much to be done. Actually, Keemstar reminds me a little bit of Ethan Ralph. They both feel to me like really, really desperately sad people who are genuinely too mentally ill to recognize like why people hate them. Like they're both like barely breaking the surface of the water of their life, you know, even though they're successful in their own respects. In your expert opinion, would Keemstar go to jail? Is it incitement to violence to publicly dox a person and like, hey, dude, get his address, we gotta do something about it? Is that incitement to violence? Doxing is not illegal. Guys, you guys don't know, I mean legally, guys. Guys, I know for a fact that a lot of you are wrong, okay? It should be, maybe it should, but... Okay, so right now I'm using tin armor. I have a ruthless wooden yo-yo. Silver pickaxe, wooden annoying silver bow, frostburn arrows, right? Gotta go digging, baby. Oh hey, Sake at the 20 bucks. Look at the Biden Trump's competition. Who could throw the election harder? Vetting club for VP and antagonizing Palestinians versus not closing international travel. Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like pretty much everyone in our like political space is fucking incompetent. Yeah, well, yeah, Faye, we just need to get the silver. Anyway, guys, our current goal... and let's get to the game! Or however the fuck he does it. Our goal right now is to go down and get more fucking gold so we can make shit, okay? That's what we're gonna do. Maybe, Vaush. Yeah, you guys like that? Let's get right into the game. Right. Hassan's about to beat Sekiro? Damn, only took a year longer than me. Pepe laugh. Who's the real best leftist streamer? I hear you all asking. Did you see Central Committee saying I wasn't a real leftist and you have the same positions on race as far right-wingers? Yeah. Do you think Central Committee has seen me saying that he's a fucking idiot and embarrassment to the left and everything he does is fucking disgraceful? There, now we've both speculated on each other. We're building it up, baby. What we want to do along the way is we want to build up these houses, these ones here that are like kind of ruined, because if we do that, other people can move into them and they can have shit that they want to sell us. We'll move them into a better house soon enough, but for now, this is going to be acceptable. Please say Yankee with no brim. No, I've said it many times, all right? They banned me from chat for suggesting white people and black people should work together in solidarity to fight racism. Yeah, that's because Mike is a fucking pussy. You can watch it with, you can see it in his body language, baby. Mike is just like a bunch of other lefties. He's trying to fucking like desperately milk woke points from like his black and brown brothers. So what that means to him is saying factually incorrect things as long as he thinks it makes him look more woke. It's actually like super fucking embarrassing. Stuff like that directly contributes to our general inability to come across as reasonable people to the average voter. Yes, Tristan the Bard, this is temporary. Okay, we did it. Guys, look at our cute little house. Wait, let me check to make sure it's viable. Have I burnt my bridge with Liv? I don't think so. Housing is suitable. Nice. Yeah, it has a pool in the basement. Do you consider yourself a Destiny fan today? Yeah, but not for the same reasons that I used to. That's okay. I think it's actually kind of nice that my impression of him has changed. It's given me a little bit more room to develop my own voice. Sounds kind of cringy maybe, but it's how I feel. Oh shit, I forgot I'm playing Master Mode. Everything fucking 3 hits me. I think your convo with Mexi might be the start of how the online perceives you as a public figure on the left. Wait, you mean like why they hate me? They already hate me. The online left already thinks I'm like scum of the earth. The pedophilia thing is probably going to run for a few weeks, so that one's going to be fun. That'll be the memeiest one yet. What playstyle do you plan on building for? I tend to like ranged. We'll see. What's the pedophilia thing? It's actually the funniest attempt to cancel me yet. Are people saying Vaush the pedo? Well, people have been saying that for ages, for every conceivable reason. But the basic gist of it is that one of them found like my art account or like my porn Twitter account, and they scrolled through the literal thousands of things that I had liked, and they saw like a Boku no Hero Academia like character taking a facial or something, and then they like Google like what is the age of this character? Like, oh my god, they're in high school. Like that's it. Like that's it. Now I'm a pedophile. It's actually like time to look through all the pornography. This guy, what's that? 8 months ago, a Boku no Hero Academia character was liked. And that actually is it, by the way. That's actually the drama. That's actually it. That's what they're trying to get me with these days. Yeah, they got me. Link the account. I privated it. I don't want these creepers going through my fucking porn. Do you know how weird that makes me feel? The porn was all good, by the way. If you guys are worried about the quality, just so you guys know, I only look at the good stuff. But yeah, like the thought of people like digging through my porn. How'd they know it was your account? Oh, I've mentioned that it's mine before. The thought of like weirdo like stalkers digging through my account to find which things I've liked. This isn't even like. These are just, like, images I've liked. I don't know. I mean, they can get off to whatever they want. Oh, and they... Also I'm a zoophile, because there were some drawings of big anime horses in there, with big, throbbing, meaty horse manhoods. Damn, they're a little late on that drama. It's... Wait, are you a furry? I jerk into a lot of furry porn, but I don't have like a fursona or anything. Opinions are divided on whether that makes me a furry. Dankula lost his mind on Twitter. Wait, is he? Wait. Is he still doing stuff? Hold on. Oh no. No, he did. Oh yeah, the older stuff. Okay, well, yeah, it was just the stuff 8 hours ago. Yeah. What's the best response when people say you're into bestiality? Oh, that's a super easy response on my end. So I like big fucking horsecock. Okay, draw that shit. Real animals are disgusting. Get that shit away from me. That's my answer. It's super easy. Toss a coin to your streamer. Oh man, Amanda with the 20 bucks. Got here late, so I don't know if it was said, but your hair looks great. Thank you. Thank Hyena, my partner. She did a great job. Really gave it a good buzz. How do you feel about that argument being applied to underage hentai? I've literally said this so many times on stream. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong if you want to jerk it to like fucking anime high school girl porn or whatever. The abstraction of animation and illustration doesn't really lend much room in some cases for this to be an actual fetishization of youth. But however, if you think like you're going after those images because like, they're so young, then what you should probably do is like take a step back and consider like why you're doing that. I think it's really important to value introspection. For example, like flat out like lolly or shota shit, the people who like that stuff tend to be, wait, whoa. No. We'll go back. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the people who are like actively into lolly and shota tend to be kind of strange. I don't know about that one. But like if you're watching Kill la Kill and you finish watching it and you step up from your chair and you're like, God damn, do I want Satsuki to sit on my fucking face? And then you go on like N hentai and you find a dojin, and then it's like someone walks up to you and they're like, hey, Satsuki is 17 years old, canonically. Oh, Satsuki's 18? Okay, then Ryuko is 17, I think. Like, hey, that's not okay. Like, yeah, that's a little weird to me. Yeah, Ryuko's 17, I think. Ryuko's the younger sister. Remember? We all watched the anime. "18 too old," Pepe laughing. Also, one other thing to point out, as somebody just said in chat, age in animation is irrelevant. You know how I know? Because we all make fun of 1,000-year-old dragon lollies, baby. It doesn't actually matter what their age is. What matters is how they look and how they act and how they appear, like with their agency in the plot. Okay, if we're actually, yeah, and Jotaro is 17, exactly, yeah. If we look at like an anime girl, whatever, and you're like, huh, she's actually 15, you fucking pedophile. But like the anime girl just looks and acts like an adult, which anime characters tend to because anime is all poorly written schlock for idiots. Then yeah, like you have to accept that. What does a 15-year-old look like? Dude, in real life, high schoolers look like fucking prepubescent insectoid, like disgusting, glossy-skinned, like fucking babies. They do. Please, I actually encourage you, if you're out of high school, if you've been in college for a few years, go by a high school sometime. Just like walk by and like, holy shit, it's like a baby pen. Like, I know when you were in high school, you probably felt like a huge badass or whatever, but like, it's creepy to walk by high school. Okay, you guys are really reaching today. But yeah, like they all look like little, like tiny, infantile baby people. It's incredible that I was that age and I thought that I was a large big boy, you know? But in anime, 15-year-old girls in anime are literally, they're literally like identical, usually, to adult girls in anime, except they're like 6 inches shorter. Sometimes that's not the case. Good anime with realistic character designs don't do that. They actually make like high schoolers look like high schoolers, which I respect. What was that? True. Wait, hyena. Oh shit, health. No!
Toss a coin to your streamer. Oh, viewers plenty.
That's okay. Hyena, what was that one anime we watched that had more realistic character designs and it was based in high school? And I remember I actually commented like, wow, this is the first time I've ever seen anime kids look like kids and not just like slightly smaller adults. My Hero Academia? What? No. In My Hero Academia, they all look like, everyone just looks like cartoon characters. And everyone is in high school. Do you like lolly stuff then? No. What? What? How could you read that from what I've been saying? I was... Shota and lolly is based? Ah, nah, fuck, nah, I'm not, no. Nah, I'm not encouraging that shit. I'm not having that shit in my community. Dude, if you want to jerk it to Shota and lolly, I'm not gonna, like, sit outside your fucking window with, like, a revolver waiting for you to come out, but if you're saying, like, it's based, dude, fucking hot, look, like, nah. That's always been, that's my hot take, okay? As a person who values freedom of speech, okay? As a person who values, freedom of speech, oh, I'm sorry. Well, we have to install the new cable, Hyena, yeah. As somebody who values freedom of speech, here's my position, okay? Lollies, lolly pornography probably shouldn't be inherently banned off the internet. Lollicons should. Anyone who identifies by liking lolly porn or whatever, those motherfuckers can go right outside, okay? Alright, we made it back. Boy, you've got a lot of health. Oh my god. What's the lore behind this game? I don't think this game has lore. Sure, there's something. We need to head down. We need to get ore. Thought on horse stick Fuda? You know my opinion on horse stick Fuda. What about literature with underage characters? When I was in high school, I liked it being about teenagers because I could relate to them. Look, whatever your opinions are on it now, I don't think it's immoral for like a young person to go like, oh, they're younger, so I relate to them. I don't think that's like weird or anything. When you mean identify, you mean they shouldn't talk about their pedophilia? Okay. So, while I am totally... Which direction are we headed in? Yeah, I think this is just people asking me if their kinks are immoral. Guys, listen, all right? When your heart is cut from your dead chest and weighed against a feather of Anubis, all right? That's between you and Anubis, okay? I am not your fucking moral arbiter, okay? It's not my job to tell you whether or not the shit you do in your fucking free time is ethical or not, okay? I'm just trying to vibe over here. We do that? Okay, we gotta find a different place to, go down to. This ended up not being very fruitful. We need to find a different tunnel. That doesn't lead to anything. Corruption is too dangerous. Okay, I think I have an idea. Okay. Yeah, Discord has been fucky lately. Okay, can we please get some fucking gold? Those notifications, though? What about them? Don't get in on this, you're probably going to be on Destiny's side. Maybe. All I saw was Destiny saying that we should, like, murder all brown people or something. It seemed pretty reasonable, but I want to double check. Pepe. Crimson or corruption? This is a corruption world. He deleted the tweet. I don't care if he deleted the tweet. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. Also, like, there is a propensity for harassment sometimes from you guys, you know? I think that's pretty much just a fact of the matter. So if he doesn't want to have to deal with that, that's fine. What does Crimson or Corruption mean? Each world spawns with an area of it that has been corrupted by a type of ailment, or like a type of like extra hard zone. There's the Crimson and the Corruption. And the Corruption and the Crimson have different enemies, different layouts, that kind of stuff, different rewards. The Crimson is the newer one. The Crimson is my personal favorite. It favors like blood and flesh, whereas the Corruption is more about like shadow and darkness and stuff like that. The Crimson is also slightly harder. At least, I certainly feel that way. Wait, we never planted a chair down here. Cringe! I'm cringing right now. I'm cringing all around. How's your day going? I feel great. Can feel a bunch more cancellation on the way, but that's okay. Cringin' versus corruption, that's true. I said bokish shit, but I trust him to intuit the actual meaning of my statement. Oh man, Soviet ball with the 20 bucks. Thank you. Rate my old metal Imperial Guardsman. Holy shit. These are nice. Nicely done. God damn. Dude, the old models, their heads were so big, they're like little cartoon boys, but these look fucking phenomenal, dude. It's really cool. Nice. And thank you. Is my ear okay? I don't know how this is still new info to folks, but I guess new people join the stream every day. I've got keloids. I had earrings for a while, and after I took them out, turns out I have a genetic propensity for cringe, because they're basically like non-cancerous cancer cells. Just a mass of flesh that grows outwards. Hurts like a bitch, too. Actually, just today I scheduled a doctor's appointment to finally get these lopped off. The last 2 times I got them lopped off didn't really seem to keep, so this time I might have to remove my entire earlobe. We're gonna Van Gogh these motherfuckers. Do I play any card games? Nah. Radiation, though? If I can get it approved... Yeah, I agree, funny rhetorician 94. Maybe I will, Xander Hall. Yeah, after the Mexi drama, I actually got this really heartfelt email from somebody who was an abuse victim, who said that they actually, like, unironically got triggered listening to Mexi because they could hear their abuser in Mexi every time Mexi would say, like, you don't need to hear why you need to apologize, you just need to apologize. This is weird, like, I thought I was supposed to be the insensitive one. Not sure, Chappy Trap House. Probably not Thick Venus. I don't really find much fun in the idea of playing stuff with my fans. Though, with that being said, guys, my 100K sub mark is going to be coming up sometime in the near future. We're going to have to find something to do for that. Quick rundown on the Mexi stuff. Oh, I just had an unproductive conversation with a left-leaning person. I would unironically do the Chatterbait stream, but there are a lot of young people in my audience, and I don't want to exclude them, even though I know they would. Even though I know they would probably come along and watch anyway, I don't want to nominally exclude them. Okay. What about a community game night? Well, that would make some people who get on super happy, but would it make everyone happy? The problem is most people do like a Q&A when they reach a certain point, but that's not really relevant for me because I do a Q&A every time I stream. That's half of what I do. So, I don't know. I'll have to really think. I'll have to really jog my noggin. God damn it. Die! Thank you. Will that make you happy? Everything makes me happy. Oh, shit! I missed the call from Rem.
Hey.
Yo, what's up?
Yes, I'm sorry. I assumed the worst though.
Nah, I literally don't care. No, the imperative performance of my audience does not reflect my actual feelings of the situation. I don't care.
Well, no, but fair enough. But well, thank you. But I mean, at the end of the, I shouldn't have assumed. I shouldn't have assumed the worst. Anyways, that I'm right.
If I ever block anyone, I lose my reputation as the edgy dirtbag left streamer. So I'm
got it.
Forbidden from ever doing it.
Got it. Well, anyways, it's since yesterday, I feel like I've gone a little bit paranoid, to be honest. So.
Wait, what happened?
Well,
I'm not baiting. Like, what happened?
I had a discussion with Destiny, and the backlash I got from it was really. I don't think I've ever gotten that. I mean,
wait! I have to. Oh my god! I can't believe I forgot to say this. You probably assume it's Destiny, not me. You know I'm live, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. Whew. I know. We all know you're a little hard in the N words in the private. Okay, I'm just making sure. Trying to keep my monetization, okay?
Good one.
All right, yeah. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Yeah. Ever since, well, Destiny's community sort of has this love-hate relationship with me, where they love me one week and then they hate me the next.
Yeah, Rem is never wrong.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's as soon as I have a position that Destiny agrees with. Everyone loves me, but then as soon as Destiny disagrees with me on something, everyone hates me. So I've gotten sort of used to it. But yesterday, I definitely got more backlash and just awful PMs and stuff than I have before, which was a bit surprising.
Yeah, what was wasn't it? Oh, wait. So here's what I know about the drama. All I know is you were having a conversation about. Was it? I think it was the Wet'suwet'en thing. If I'm and it devolved into Destiny saying that the long-term solution here would just be to roll like the indigenous cultures into the state and like see if they could like swim or die in that environment.
Right. I mean, he said basically if he was the leader of Canada, he would just invade them and then force them to have the pipeline. And I told him, well, what about their culture? And he's like, well, we can assimilate the culture. You don't have to, like, extinguish it. But I said to him, indigenous culture, not everyone, but I would say a majority of them, based on my experience, have their culture inherently tied to the land on which they are raised and where their ancestors grew up. So by removing them from this land and manipulating their land for the benefit of resource extraction, you are, in a sense, obviously wiping out their identity and culture. And that's
so
exactly
just to clarify, because I need to, because I don't want to get roped into defending an untenable position or attacking an untenable position. Did Destiny actually say that he, as the leader of Canada, would want to invade, or did he say that like ideally?
Yes.
But he didn't say it in the way like, ideally, I would have society structured in such a way as for there to be no legal distinction.
I sent you the clips. You can watch those 2 clips.
Okay, I did see those clips. I'm just making sure that the broader context of the discussion didn't iron out his positions a little.
I stayed on longer than I should have because I specifically wanted to make sure that was the kind of thing that he was advocating for. And I even gave him a very pertinent example of, like, let's say there's a country of 200 million people and next to it is a country of 2 million people, and they have cobalt, and the country of 200 million people really need cobalt, but the 2 million people say, well, we don't want to give this up. This is ours. I said, what would you do? And he said, well, I'd fucking invade that shit. Right? So, you know.
So he did use the word invade, because I don't remember that. I just
Yep.
remember him saying like ideally structured or something like that.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I don't recall ideally structured at all.
Okay,
He
all
did
right.
say
Yeah,
invade.
okay. Well, then I'll take your word. I guess we can attack those ideas. And you're I guess not in favor of his proposition. No. Okay.
I mean, so it's not like there's no conditions under which, like, let's say there's a specific mineral that's needed to like feed the entire population, but 500 people are not letting you on the land. If worse comes to worse, there are going to be circumstances under which you have to weigh the autonomy of one people against another, right?
Racism, Rem, looking for excuses to colonize. I see how it is.
But as it stands in Canada right now, there don't exist any situations at all like that, right? So it's just not an applicable type of situation. And so, yeah, it really bothered me, and it really surprised me to hear him say that. And then usually, as soon as Destiny says something really problematic, every single leftist streamer will jump on the issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember, like the N-word thing. Everyone talks about it. But every single leftist streamer last night that streamed, not a single word. And it really shocked me, to say the least. So I'm not, I don't know. It was weird to me, and it felt sort of, in a sense, lonely, in that this seems to me to be a very clearly obvious position that we should stand out against, but it doesn't seem like many people are willing to stand up and defend it, even though, or attack it rather, attack Destiny's position.
Yeah.
Given it is essentially, he advocates cultural genocide. That is what it boils down to. If he agrees with the statements that he made yesterday and he doesn't go back on them, that is what he was essentially advocating for.
Do you mind if I steel man his arguments a little bit so we can have a discursive play-by-play of yeah. Okay. So I actually had a conversation with an advocate with regards to the Wet'suwet'en situation. Pretty goddamn complicated. The fact that we're dealing not only with a completely different like legal system, but also a very different set of cultural norms that mitigate the interaction between different legal systems.
Totally different worldview.
Yeah. Like these are super fucking different. So I sympathize in part with what Destiny is saying here, because I feel like if you extrapolate the logic of like reservations or settlements to past a certain point, what you inevitably end up getting is like a bunch of like hyper culturally fixated people trying to justify like ethno-states or legally exclusionary zones based on like their shared sense of collective persecution. And I think that's a really bad road to go down. Obviously, the Wet'suwet'en people aren't exactly like fervent ethno-staters who are cynically exploiting the sentiments of liberals to get away with like having an ethno-state. But what would you say a long-term solution to this is? What do? We can't keep the reservations forever.
Well, first of all, the whole ethno-state, it's total bullshit. Go to a reservation. Obviously, you can't right now. Also, you don't live in Canada, so you can't. But
I'm already on my way, baby.
Go to a First Nations reservation. Like there is a general culture and fundamental belief among First Nations peoples that is incredibly welcoming. And if you are not actually I think it's the Mi'kmaq nation. It's literally an ingrained rule that you can be disowned from the nation if you are not ready to offer hospitality to anyone that enters. And this is an extremely common trait and disposition that First Nations communities have across the entire North America and South America, right? Mm-hmm. You can literally read reports about when Columbus first arrived at Hispaniola in the Caribbean. All of the natives came to the beaches with fish and fruit ready to welcome them. Of course, he would then later on commit genocide against these people, but...
Yeah, obviously, that's the proest gamer move.
Right, so this whole nationalism that happens in the First Nations communities comes from an attempt to preserve what is being actively destroyed. It is not ever saying that we will never welcome anyone who isn't us into our territory. It is saying that we are in a constant struggle right now to even live and preserve what we have. And that is why we can't just tolerate anyone coming into our land whenever the government specifically, coming into our land and taking whatever the hell they want. That's not how this needs to work. That's not what reconciliation really is. So
right, but okay, but all right. So I want to, in very strictly pragmatic terms, you agree that long term. Okay, so you and I assume you agree eventually with the dissolution of the state. I'm sure that's something you agree with. Are you an anarchist?
I'm not. No, I'm not an anarchist. But I mean,
Not too much of you, Rem.
A decentralization.
Okay, all right. Well, we can work within that context. So if we're in favor of decentralization, we have to recognize that in order for the system to work best, people within a given area have to subscribe to the same basic legal codes. If they can't do that, we get like a bunch of really substantial problems when it comes to understanding which set of rules are meant to be followed, or can we circumnavigate rules by moving to a different province or territory. It just gets really dicey. So with regards to, if we're not going to use Wet'suwet'en in politics as an example, then maybe just American reservations, because that's something I'm probably a lot more familiar with. If we're going to acknowledge that fact, how then do we make an effort to bring them into the fold? Because that is something ideally I would like to have happen. I don't like the idea of like reservations being a thing forever.
No, I totally appreciate what you were saying. I just think that this is a discussion that needs to be had after the First Nations people are actually even close to being on the same ground as the average Canadian citizen. So once we get to that certain point, we can talk about a way in which we can equalize, and that will mean perhaps adjusting our own legal codes, because maybe they are not the correct ones. And we can adopt legal codes of other nations that are not identical. Because throughout all of this, there tends to be this assumption that the Canadian way of life, the Canadian governmental structure, is ultimately the correct form of structure. And that we are asking, well, how can we assimilate everything to our structure? There's no talk about, well, can we critically evaluate our own structure and compare it to our First Nations governmental structure, evaluate what are the good parts of both of this, and arrive at a settlement that is able to accommodate to the best of our abilities the best parts of both. But that's so much further down the road, of course, given the struggles that First Nations communities continue to face in Canada specifically. I mean, it was only a few decades ago that these First Nations people were forcibly removed from their homes and placed into residential schools.
We're not that far off at all.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I mean, this is not that, and there's still sterilization going on in Saskatchewan against, I believe, Métis people. So there are a lot of these big issues that people need to take into account. In the end, absolutely, I agree with you. There can't be 50 different, maybe like 1,000 in North America alone, differing legal structures. Obviously, that's not going to be possible. It's not pragmatic. Things will end up for the worst if that's the case. But we should at least recognize that as it stands right now, talking about assimilation of a culture is not, the way we should go about doing this. We need to talk about reconciliation first and foremost. And I think that begins with respecting the self-governance and self-determination and the rights to the lands that these Indigenous people have in the first place. Not just from a moral standpoint, but also from a legal standpoint. I genuinely believe if this were to go to court, which it will eventually, the Wet'suwet'en people will, or specifically the hereditary chiefs, they will win that legal case. Because in British Columbia Supreme Court cases in the past, it has been the hereditary chief legal structure that has been recognized, not the band council structure. So
okay, I think
legal grounds and moral grounds.
I agree with literally everything you just said. What exactly about this did Destiny take umbrage with? I know. Listen, I disagree with Destiny on plenty. I feel like that take delivered to me right now is almost inarguable. I don't know how. I know he was playing League at the time, and it's entirely possible that there are contexts here of which I am not aware, but I feel like, as you just presented to me, that's an almost inarguable point.
Well, thank you, but I think that Destiny is, and I mean, I can't speak for Destiny, right? You'll have to talk to Destiny on your own about the topic, I guess.
I'm sure
but from what I remember, he essentially thought it was absurd that a group of, let's say, like in a hypothetical 500 people can somehow have an effect on what the greater population of the country wants. He thinks that that is that's not okay.
That's really weird for a capitalist, because I feel like fundamentally the idea of defending the Wet'suwet'en people's right to their land is analogous to defending the property rights of individual actors who are trying to resist like state seizure of their property.
Yeah, that's a great point.
We have eminent domain, of course. There are processes to mitigate this in like individual cases. But the idea of like the state saying like, I'd rather build an oil well here, and then just demolishing like 3 square blocks of Manhattan, like this would never happen. It's only because of the economic subjugation of the Wet'suwet'en people and their relative cultural marginalization that it's even a question. Right?
Right. I mean, like so if you were to talk to Destiny about, like, I got the impression it was a might is right take. Like, I literally gave him a hypothetical of the 200 million versus the one to isolate it from the indigenous people's issue, and he said, well, fuck yeah, then they didn't get the resources. He said fuck your culture if it's tied to your land.
I mean, in a philosophical sense, I do agree with that a little bit, but it's more of a like I'm also an anti-theist, but I wouldn't like run around telling Muslims like fuck all you, wow, you're all living a lie, like ripping off headscarves or whatever. Just because I think an idea is fundamentally toxic doesn't mean I think that the best way to mitigate that is to like approach it with violence or with state violence or cultural suppression.
Right. So going a bit more narrow then on that specific topic about the legitimacy of such worldviews or philosophies, I used to have that belief. Like, I used to think that it sounds so, it sounds out of date, it sounds, ridiculous, etc. And it really shouldn't be given any serious consideration. But you come at this from, a Western lens of philosophy, when indigenous philosophies are very rigorous in their justifications and grounding. And I would just suggest, I think people should actually do a serious investigation of them in the first place before maybe dismissing them. I'm not saying you're dismissing them, but as people will readily dismiss them in the first place.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, well, I am one of those people who will...
They are not theistic. I will tell you, they are not...
Well, no, I know. I know that it's not as much of a mysticism thing as it is just priorities placed in different regards. If you wanted to like fall all the way back to like axiomatic shit, you could probably do just as good of a job justifying the Wet'suwet'en people's like perspective on law and culture as you could mine. Possibly even a better job, considering the internal contradictions of capitalism have basically made necessary hypocrisy if you want to defend the values our society has.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, I can acknowledge that. I am one of those people who will say some cultures are better than other cultures, but I don't know fucking dick all about the Wet'suwet'en people, so I can't exactly fairly criticize them. I'm trying to think here, because I don't want to contribute to like an uncharitability train. Destiny's much larger than me, of course. It's not like I would hurt him or anything, but I am curious.
I mean, like, look, you can just watch you can't watch those clips and not get. I mean, even if you watch the entire thing, it's very clear that what he's advocating is a might is right perspective. And I mean, that just follows from his egoism, right? So I'm not sure why people think it's so. Apparently Destiny wants to talk.
Destiny is messaging me. Oh God. All right. What are we up to? Drag me in. I'm not even streaming. Do you mind me bringing him in? He might target you instead of me.
No, yeah, he absolutely will. He did some very vicious personal attacks.
Can I moderate? Can I be that?
You could try to mod, but ultimately, if it gets to, because I have stuff to do tonight. I have a stream tomorrow with the professor on Canadian blood scale crisis.
Yeah, sure. Hold on. Let me boom
but
I
will legitimately leave, and people will say, "Oh, you're being a coward," but I'm not interested in having a spat.
I know. He's got the Destiny debate tactics. I know. I'm joking. I understand. Okay, hold on. Wait, how the fuck do I do this? Add friends. Oh, I see. Okay, here we go. Add friends to DM. Omni Destiny. Here we go. Group TM. Hello?
Oh, hello. Hey, how's it going?
Hey there.
Hello.
Oh, so before Mr. Remthebathboi over here mischaracterized my position as go and murder all the natives in Steelerland. Basically,
I never
all I
said
was
that.
saying was
What?
that
What are you talking about? Wait, I never said that that's
Oh,
what
no.
your position
Wait, would it be
was.
possible for me to moderate this? I feel so calm right
actually
now.
we can just find the tweet that he launched like 30 seconds after.
When did I say that you should go, that you were advocating to murder all the people? I never said
Yeah,
that
I
you
know
were
you
going to
don't.
murder or hurt any indigenous people, only that
You
you were
didn't
going
say-
to wipe out their culture as a result of displacing them from their land. That is
Is
all I've
the
attributed
only
to you.
aspect of their culture their land?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, quite literally, the primary focus of indigenous worldviews, and specifically, I believe, of the
Hold on, so-
Wet'suwet'en people.
Pretending that indigenous peoples of Canada might be listening to this right now. So
Yep.
you, as somebody that is
No, I can't
relatively
give a universal
clueless
claim.
about most of their culture, which I know you are, you would feel comfortable saying, "Oh yeah," as a white guy who has no idea what most people think. I think that their culture is like 99% their land, dude. That's the argument you want to go with.
I can
Just making
speak
sure.
specifically to the cultures that I'm familiar with.
Which ones
and
are those, Rem?
The Gwich'in people, the Mi'kmaq people, Six Nations.
So Witchin people
Iroquois.
have so if I were to go and research like Witchin,
The
first of all, the
people,
Six Nations, didn't they change from 5 nations to 6 nations? Like haven't they even changed lands over the history of their existence?
They incorporate. It was a confederation. So, but
Okay, so so if I go look at like, the
Gwich'in
history of the
people-
Witchin people or any of these indigenous peoples, you're telling me they've never switched lands before ever?
no, not the Gwich'in people. No.
Okay.
I don't understand. Hold
Wait,
on,
would it
I
be
don't
wait?
understand
Wait. Would it be possible?
There's
Just so
been
we're actually
migration.
discussing the ideas really quickly, Rem. Would it be possible to acknowledge that while land does change hands, land is still a fairly substantial part of their culture, and for that reason, the context in which these lands change can often be an important component in the extent to which it destroys or damages their culture?
Well, yeah. So I want to make clear that I'm not saying that like a culture is not something that needs to necessarily strike back to the beginning of time. So obviously these people migrated from northwestern Canada and the United States all the way to the south. So and these migratory patterns happened up after contact. But then they formed their new culture around the lands that they now inhabited. And like I said, I'm not going to attribute this view to every single, nation or tribe out there. Obviously, that's absurd. But from all of the ones that I'm familiar with, the Gwich'in people, the Iroquois, the Mi'kmaq, Ojibwe, right? All of these that I'm familiar with in Canada and some parts in, the Rust Belt area, these are all people who have their culture inherently tied to the land. And if you remove them from their land, you are removing an essential part of their culture. That is a view I will absolutely stand by, based on what I have learned about the subject. If you have, a source that says that land isn't an integral part of these people's culture, I will absolutely read it, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just reading real quick. Unfortunately, when I get into these types of arguments, I've learned that I can never take anything for granted because most of the time people are very comfortable lying.
Do you want me to bring up? I can bring up for you. I have a whole book.
Me
on
too,
the
brother.
religion culture of,
I'm
like,
sure you have the book.
Northwestern
I know
indigenous
you
people.
haven't read it though, so I don't care. I know you haven't read it.
You don't think
I know
I've
you
read?
haven't. No, I know you haven't. Rem, when we got into a conversation 2 days ago, I have no idea about any of the indigenous peoples whatsoever, and you very comfortably made the claim
Why are you
that the
making these
majority.
character
Oh,
attacks?
wait, can I? Chill.
It's totally
okay?
unnecessary.
I'm not making a character attack. I'm talking about the knowledge that you failed to have. A couple days ago when we spoke, you very confidently asserted that yesterday, you very confidently asserted that the majority of indigenous people lived very far north in Canada where no one else did. And you linked me a map that proved the own map you linked me was made that incorrect. You spoke in vague generalities about literally everything. It's pretty clear that you have like a surface level, like barely Wikipedia knowledge of this. You have not read any books on this. It's painfully obvious. Do you want to tell me right now that whatever book you were about to cite, you've actually read it cover to cover on this
Yeah,
topic?
sure. I can give you 5. I can give you 10.
Wait, you gave
You
me.
want to go
10
grab them?
wait,
They're literally right here. We're
you
going
can
to
give
measure our dicks.
You can tell me that you've read 10 books cover
Over
to
10.
cover on this.
Yes.
But you couldn't speak in any more than a lot of people like this, or a lot of people like that, or
Well,
some
I
of the
can
What
people
is-
like
what is
you.
the
and
underlying
name specific
contention
nations,
here?
But I know that you don't know.
My problem is that
the
Rem
Vaush
didn't really have a good
people.
grasp of
What do
anything
you-
that he was talking about. He's pretending like he's an authority on the subject. It's insane to me.
Wait,
I don't know
if-
why
I'm
he's
not-
doing this.
If it
pretending I
was
am on
if it could be
authority,
proven
but I
to you
have-
if it could be proven to you that Rem was more knowledgeable than you seem to perceive he is, would you take issue with the takes that he's given?
Well, I don't like to. It's really cringy for me to ask him to like drill down on these things. But like, can you talk to me a little bit about the history of the Iroquois people? I guess if
The
read.
Iroquois, well, the Iroquois are not like a specific type of people. They're more of a generalized region of Canada that confederated. I could honestly, on the Iroquois, not my best area. My best area would be the northwestern Gwich'in peoples, and probably Micmac and some southwestern.
Weren't the Iroquois, wasn't that league like one of the most like prominent indigenous peoples leagues that like existed that people talk about? And you say you've read 10 books cover to cover on this type of stuff and you don't know anything about them? Like, I'm sorry, Rem, but you're like, I know you're lying to me. I know you're lying to me. Like, I'm cringing right now for you. I don't know why you can't just admit that, like, okay, sure, I've read a lot of articles on this. I've read some.
I've learned about the Iroquois because we learned that literally in grade 10, and we learned about the formation of the Iroquois League.
Remember, are you Canadian?
The wars and the pardon?
Are you Canadian?
Yeah, I'm Canadian.
Fuck, that sucks. Sorry.
Why does that suck?
Nothing.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was the first part of that you said? Wait, what did you being Canadian have to do with that?
Well, because we learn it in our curriculums.
Okay, wait. So then, why don't you know anything about them?
I do know about the Iroquois, but for modern day Iroquois nations and their current cultures is not something I'm very well read up on.
But you very confidently
trips to colonialist powers I do know about, but that's not going to be relevant for our conversation.
It's very relevant because just a few minutes ago, you very confidently asserted that none of these people have ever moved from their lands before because their land is an integral part of their identity.
When did I say that they haven't moved away from I literally just told you that, of course, they migrated from the northwestern areas of Canada. I literally said
then
that.
It sounds like these people are able to move. Oh, cool. Then we have no... Then we have no
wait,
disagreement.
wait.
Then cool.
Even if we acknowledge that they are able to move, I don't think that necessarily follows that it does no harm to them to expect them to move at the state's request.
Yeah, of course. So my original argument to anybody that was listening and wasn't just trying to look for slam dunks was that if there exists some territory within the borders of your country that has resources that can dramatically enrich the lives of your people, I probably wouldn't let a group of squatters that are sitting on it overrule the rest of the country and even the rest of the other indigenous tribes and say, we don't want anything touching this land. That seems insane to me.
Well, how would you feel if they were just private citizens, though? If it had nothing to do with native rights, if there was just like a neighborhood and it was owned by some company or by a group of individual proprietors, would you have the state bowl over them in the same way?
Yeah, you eminent domain those people. It sucks, but like sometimes for the benefit of society, like you can't allow like a couple people to just ruin it for everybody else because they were at some spot before somebody else was. It's a really silly way, in my opinion, of going about doling out land.
Well, I do acknowledge that. I think your use of the word squatters does kind of belie an impression of these people that might not be.
I didn't want to comment on it, but.
Rem, you love commenting on it because you feel like you're getting slam dunks all the time. So the reality is that Rem is saying that they should have it because they were there first. That's a squatter. You got there first, so you keep it.
But that's our argument.
Regardless of the benefits of the other people around them, regardless of the harm caused to the other people around, and regardless of what the majority will of the other indigenous tribes there are. You think that because they got there first, they have not only have rights to land, but they have the right to the land, irregardless of what the rest of Canada or indigenous peoples want, and no one has a right to even touch anything on it.
The argument for the existence of states, though, I mean, if you disagree with that principle, you have to necessarily disagree with any kind of stated boundary. Because
not at all. States exist within a federal system that have to make compromises with each other all the time. And the American system, and I imagine probably in the provincial system of Canadian Parliament as well.
But if we do the Mexican people an infinite amount of good for them to annex some portion of American land, there is no force on earth that could move us in that regard. We were here first.
Wait, can you say that again?
Yeah, so like if the people of Mexico, the government, the people, whatever, thought that they could substantially benefit the people of their land by annexing a portion of the United States of America, the argument we would use fundamentally is, no, fuck off, this is our land. And while I don't disagree that, I mean, hey, listen, I'm an anarchist, fuck property rights, but if that's the argument you want to make, we also have to recognize this could be applied in a lot of other contexts that I don't know if you would necessarily agree with.
Well, but it can't because Mexico can't annex land from the United States.
Right. Legally is wait, are we talking legally or morally here?
I'm like, well, like practically, they wouldn't be able to, right? The United States maintains its own borders, and the United States has the capability of maintaining and defending its own borders.
So
right?
Wait, but that's the might makes right argument. So then you're saying if the Wet'suwet'en people, wait, can I clarify if I may? So your argument there was that we have the strength to sovereignly defend our borders. Yeah, but the Wet'suwet'en don't, of course. But then if we're saying the only reason we get to take their land, but Mexico couldn't take ours, is because we're strong and they're not, we're implicitly saying that the worth of taking land is a product of the the extent to which they're capable of defending it, which is
So to some
makes
extent,
right.
I think that there's a nugget of truth in there. So the idea would be is that if they exist literally at the only as a result of another country being there to provide as much for them as they can, right? Which they do. So for instance, any of these indigenous peoples that exist in these countries are literally only there because other countries are surrounding them, keeping them safe, probably providing them with a lot of tax subsidies and whatnot to keep them going. Not to say that that's enough, because we've screwed over a lot of these people in a ton of different ways. I think it's okay if the entire rest of the country that is involved in supporting these like small indigenous tribes is like, hey, listen, we kind of want to run a pipeline through your land. Like, I know it kind of sucks. You can keep everything else. We're not going to come and kill you. We're not going to steal anything or whatever, but like, we need to partition off some part for this. Like, I'm sure there's a way to figure that out, rather than for these people to have the supreme god rights over land that they can't even like hold themselves, that they rely on subsidies from the government around them to take care of. That's what I think. I think there's a way to work.
Do you
that
think
out.
the fact that they rely on subsidies is component to this? Like, if they didn't, would you grant them more like moral autonomy?
Yeah, I think that if they were a complete and total separate nation, like totally on their own, I think it would be a little different, sure.
Then the argument that I would oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Destiny. I just wanted to make sure. Then the argument I would make is the only reason they're dependent on the nation is because they've already been the victims of colonization, right? It's not like before the Canadian folk came over there, the French, whatever. It's not like they were like looking out for handouts from Europe. Like, they were autonomous until we put them in a position politically, socially, and economically where they would need to depend on handouts that were given to them by their colonizers.
That's kind of true, and unfortunately there's no good answer for this, and this is going to trigger the fuck out of a lot of people, but like, you can't really run that argument back more than like, I don't know, a few decades, maybe 100 or 200 or 200 years.
Was a few decades ago that these people were placed in residential schools and were actively oppressed, and there's still sterilization going on in First Nations communities.
That's cool. I'm not okay with oppressive schools, so I don't know why you brought it up, but good point, Rem.
No, because
but the problem is that like, if you run this back infinitely, Vaush,
that the Canadian government made over the past few decades, that is readily.
Cool. That's cool. That's a cool story. Okay. So the problem is that if you run this back infinitely, these people probably stole the land from somebody else, and then
I don't know why you're
probably
acting like
stole
such
the
an
land from
asshole.
somebody else. Because you're bringing up points that I obviously don't disagree with.
Vaush and I were having.
Yeah, because you're bringing up this dumb point. Your tweet was saying that the Canadian Destiny saying that the Canadian government should invade all native communities, remove them from their land, and thereby assimilate them to Canadian culture.
You would invade these
No,
nations.
what I said was that I would try to roll these quote-unquote sovereign Indian nations that aren't even truly sovereign into my country somehow. They'd either make them another province, make them another state, bring them out of the
and because you were taking over these portions of their lands, you were displacing them from their native lands, and in a sense eradicating their culture, because it is inherently.
You're not just because you roll somebody into their country doesn't mean you eradicate their culture.
It does when you displace them for the means.
You don't
of
have to
extraction.
displace them.
What do you mean? If you are shoving a pipeline through their native land, their heritage, that is displacing them from their land. I don't understand.
What does all of the land of the pipeline, is it like miles and miles across, become all uninhabitable? It's all destroyed? Like, what do you mean?
Well, actually, yeah, there's a huge issue that these pipelines do have an awful ecological effect. And I can send you an article that has shown the actual effects on that on First Nations community. So actually, yes, to an extent.
My concern
but even worse, it drives them away from those areas of the land that have been seen as their ancestral home, and of which they have tied their identity.
Saying ancestral, but earlier you acknowledged that these people have moved around before, so it's not like it's impossible that they could resettle 10 miles away. Like,
my concern. Wait, please. You right? You did just say they don't need to resettle, but now you're saying like they could just resettle a bit over. Do you mean like within their own territories?
Sure. Well, he's making it sound like you'd be taking these people and shipping them off to Liberia, like what Lincoln wanted to do.
Okay, but the issue I have here, and I hope you understand that I'm probably not as far over and woke on this as Rem is, because I literally just got in trouble for the black nationalism thing. I don't really care about culture.
Black nationalist, by the way.
I don't care. Well, hold on. Okay, I don't necessarily care about in culture intrinsically, but in the context
I think we can all sort of agree on that, by the way. Just as a little.
Hey, listen, hold up. I've got a lot of people. I've got the fucking Pharaoh mask on my Terraria character and everything. I'm trying to get in good with them.
Literally a fascist on Twitter.
My main concern here is that I feel like this is taking context, or this is taking place in the context of a broader pattern where we would like, okay, we're done invading you, have your land, but wait, actually, hold on, one more thing. But wait, actually, one more thing. And then we do this, like, we roll it back forever and forever. The issue is that because the Wet'suwet'en people, or people of any other indigenous predilection in our countries, don't really have the social or military autonomy to defend themselves and to defend their provinces, their autonomy only exists until it's inconvenient to us. So even if it might bring about, like, a great good to lay pipe through their lands. I feel like in the context of us continuing to subvert the autonomy we promised them a century and a half ago, it leads to a greater utilitarian harm. I feel like we almost have to respect their rights, if for no other reason than because at this point, to go back on the expectations that have been set for them is tantamount to continuing a genocide that has been going on for a long time.
So I wouldn't say continuing a genocide, but I 100% agree. That's why I said I don't think you can have your cake and eat it too. To grant sovereignty to any indigenous people is a joke. One, it's not real sovereignty because it's going to be disrespected as soon as it's insanely inconvenient to another party, and then two, you're going to continue to run into problems over and over again as the country, the dominating country, tries to exert its influence over the people. That's why it feels to me like the most effective way to do things is to say, hey, you know what? We're going to make you guys a province or a state or a municipality or whatever they have in Canada that would do it. And then now you guys are going to be part of the voting base, the tax base. You're going to blah, blah, blah. And that seems to be the most effective way to do things, because the reality is that
means removing their governmental structure.
Cool. Okay. So the reality is that
inherently tied to their culture as well.
Damn, sounds like their culture needs to come into the 21st century then. Sorry. The reality is that, like, let's say that OPEC, or let's say that a whole bunch of, like, oil-producing countries...
Could I challenge you a little bit?
It's all racism to you, I know, Rem.
Could I challenge you a little bit on that, Destiny?
Wait, real quick. Yeah, sure. Wait,
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, my problem is that, like, and I'm sure everyone here would agree, even Rem would. Yeah, I know, dude. It's white people, right? So the problem is that, like, if we run into some national or international, like, oil shortage or some crazy stuff starts happening and, like, the entire economy of Canada is suffering, there is no possible way that the rest of the Canadian citizens are going to be content to just sit on all the natural resources sitting in certain areas or not have, like, certain pipelines flowing through just because some people there want it not there, right? These are people that don't have the best interest. Well,
why does it matter what the majority of Canadians at one point were totally fine to literally commit genocide against the Indigenous people? We're talking about what the Canadian government should actively be doing right now, not about what the majority.
Sure. And I think what the Canadian government should be actively doing is looking out for the majority of its citizens. That's what I think the Canadian government.
At all times?
Not at all times. I mean, generally there are exceptions to this.
So if the majority of Canadians want to actually commit genocide against those people.
Oh my God! Hold on.
Wait,
I never even considered
I'd
that.
like it
Rem.
if we could.
No, Rem is right. Actually, I would be opposed if the majority of people wanted to commit genocide. Do you want to ask me any others, Rem? Would I be okay if the majority of the people wanted to rape all black people or wanted to murder all children?
You said that the Canadian government ought to do what the majority of the people.
No, Rem. I actually did. You just made me reconsider my whole point. That was ingenious.
When you're done being an asset, then
Can I clarify? Do you want them to rape all of the Wet'suwet'en people, Destiny?
I never even considered that one before, Vaush. If I'm being totally honest with you, I never considered that the majority could exert a negative influence over a minority of people. I guess since Rem brought that up, I guess the reality is that a minority of people should actually have infinite power over the majority of people. I think that's the reasonable alternative. I think that's a better alternative.
Well, the issue is really to an extent we already kind of believe in that, right? Like here, we do in some classes because we don't believe in tyranny of the majority. For example, the idea of protected classes, right? Fundamentally, what we're doing, like even if there's a reciprocal benefit here, is we're saying everyone, hundreds of millions of people, can't engage in certain types of discriminatory behavior because it is conceivably capable of hurting a small minority of people. I don't think there's necessarily wrong with that in principle.
Yeah, but we don't do that at the detriment of, like, the larger group of people generally. Or at least I can't think of, like...
Fuck, I'm pretty sure if I thought for it, I could think of times where legally and socially we've adopted policies that respected the autonomy of individuals to the detriment of the majority. But I guess
you could argue that, like, if you're like a landlord and you really hate trans people,
corporations as people, Bosh.
Maybe that, like, you don't even know what that means, Rem. But, like, I imagine that if you were like a building owner and you really, what do you think it means when you recognize a corporation as a person, Rem?
It was a fucking meme, like the same way that you were fucking memeing about committing genocide against Indigenous people.
Wait,
why is it that you can make jokes?
What did the meme mean? Can you explain what the meme meant? I just didn't know what you meant by recognizing corporations as people. Do you think it's a silly concept? Why is it silly, Rem?
The joke is that we can recognize a certain type of status to a few people that are not attributed to all people in a given population, and that can be a detriment to the entire population.
Oh, I know one. Wait, I know one, Destiny, that I know for a fact you agree with. Making it so that school districts aren't funded by property taxes. What that's going to do fundamentally is, the wealthier people in a given neighborhood aren't going to have guarantees that their schools will be disproportionately funded. But so that's definitely material harm being done to them. But the poor people in that neighborhood get a better shot. I think you can make a reasonable argument. There are plenty of decent examples in our society where we're willing to concede like the well-being of the majority if we can take a principled stance against harming a minority group.
That's kind of true. Okay, I'm about to take a massive lefty position, super woke thing on you.
Hey, I've been waiting for it.
You know how when some people say like racist doesn't mean just being racist, it means powerful prejudice. When I think of majority and minority groups, I usually think of status in society. So for instance, females are a minority in society, even though they're a majority population because they have a minority of power. So like you can discriminate against wealthy people in the forms of like taxation or mixing up school districts. But I mean like there's a very small amount of people that are hurt there. They're not minority power holders, but it like benefits the rest of society greatly. So in that case, I would be like, yeah, tax them a little bit more, you know, whatever, and then that's okay. The same way with the whatever the indigenous people sitting on the land, I'd be like, okay, build a pipeline through the land. There's a little bit of harm done, but it benefits everybody else greatly.
I accept that. What about reparations though? I know this is like typically something that right-wing people will say, but realistically, if we try to make a societal effort to reinvest in like black businesses and black neighborhoods and recompense there, that's going to be a societal displacement of wealth from everyone, including other minority groups, towards like one group of people.
So without knowing like the first of all, calling it reparations is weird.
I agree it's a bad term, yeah, but you just
the only thing that hurts me with reparations is like, man, if you were like an American Indian and black people started getting reparations, I would be fucking so mad. Like,
that's maybe the like, priority list could be.
Yeah, I guess like I'm just kind of thinking, but I mean like you could. I don't really care if you call it reparations or not. Clearly, African American communities in the United States need help. It feels like. I don't know. I would have to look at like tax structures more, but it feels like there's got to be enough money at the top to help these people that like people in the middle and bottom don't have to throw so much out to like bolster poor communities. Like there has to be a better way that we can structure our tax system, whether it's through more capital gains increases or higher taxes at the end, at the upper end of the bracket. Like there has to be some way to distribute money to these people that like makes it work. That doesn't just take money from a bunch of middle class or poor people.
Okay, well I would agree with that, but I thought that you were generally okay with means testing and didn't like the universality of programs because you didn't think it lent any benefits.
Well, yeah, I think means testing is really good, but what does that have to do with what we're talking about?
I thought you were saying like insofar as you attempting to apply like the wealth redistribution with regards to reparations, you would try to do so in such a way as to avoid targeting certain groups. Oh, I think I misheard you. I misheard. My apologies. I misheard you. I thought you said the opposite of what you said. Okay, I acknowledge your point then.
Oh yeah.
If I can bring that around
can I ask
then.
a question?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
I want to make sure that we're on the same. So, Destiny, specifically, I gave you that example yesterday of because look, I agree with you that there are certain circumstances in which a minority group of let's say like less than 1,000 people. Like, let us say in a hypothetical world, they have a very valuable resource on their land that is required to, like, let's say even save the rest of the population that surrounds them. Obviously, that is a scenario where the autonomy of an entire populace will take precedence over the autonomy of, let's say, 500 people. I'm not ruling out as a possibility that that type of invasion, which it quite literally is, would not be warranted. But we were specifically talking about the Canadian cases that exist right now, where we are trying to put a pipeline through. And I would say that the benefits that this gives to the average Canadian does not at all come close to overpowering the blatant violation of international law for one, Canadian law for another, and also just the ethical quandaries that would surround invading a native people's homes and eradicating their culture as a result.
I mean, I just don't believe you because I'm pretty sure the majority of the I can't pronounce their names. I'm pretty sure the majority of them have voted on it, and the majority of them are okay with it.
Give me a source on that. There's no source of that.
Didn't every single democratically elected leader be okay with it? And the only ones that were opposed to it were the hereditary ones, and they kicked off the 3 other hereditary ones that were also okay with it?
Again, this is the complicated thing around their specific governmental structure, because the way that the band council is elected is not the same way that, for example, we would elect our local representatives. The band council is not only elected by all people of the general nation. It is elected only by people who are on the Indian register, and not all indigenous peoples are on the Indian register.
How many aren't on the register?
I can't. Again, we don't have.
Like you're not well informed enough on the opinion to have a.
No, Destiny is that there are hold. They are not numbers for those.
Wait, we're presupposing we're presupposing the legitimacy of a democratic effort to justify their involvement here.
Sure.
Destiny, if they disagreed with it. Would that make a difference to you?
They don't exist.
Rem keeps saying like, oh, a lot of people don't like this. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, well, the democratically elected leaders are all in favor of it. It's like,
I'm not familiar with the extent to which
Canadian government.
I'm not familiar with the extent to which the people agree with it, but since fundamentally our disagreement is not on whether or not they agree with it, but whether or not they should have a right to oppose it if they do disagree with it, I'd rather we focus specifically on that.
Sure.
I think
well, I guess, like, this is one of the reasons why I would, if they were part of, like, I don't know how Canada's parliament system works, but it's probably similar to the US's. If they were like part of that parliamentary system where like different states had different amounts of representations, maybe they could get something in exchange for it, right? If they don't like the way that their schooling system is treated, or if they want more like federal funds or whatever, that could be part of the negotiation about like, hey,
that's the issue, is that they would see this as absolute assimilation. You remove their traditional hierarchical governmental structures that are tied in to their culture, their governmental systems, the role of an economic chief, the role of an overall chief. These are things that are baked into their culture and the way that they interact with the land.
How large is the
why don't you care?
Well, because of how large is the tribe of people?
The Wet'suwet'en, I think, is like 2,000 or so.
Yeah, I just don't care.
Do you, that's a might mix, right?
If we're talking about it's a matter of prioritizing.
I'll get the specific numbers. Well,
it's a matter of prioritizing the will of 2,000 people to the detriment of the 40 million citizens that live in Canada. I'm sorry. I mean, like, if you can't move 10 miles away and it's that big of a deal.
My concern here, and I know for a fact that I can't move you over on this. It's just it's frustrating to me that you would adopt that position when I know you would rebuke my arguments that laws are passed to the benefit of a few thousand corporations that end up hurting the rest of the country.
Wait, why do you think I would rebuke that?
Sure. Okay.
Favor most corporate law in the United States. Calm down. I know you think or not you, but a lot of people say I'm a right winger, but I'm incredibly far left when it comes to my economic position.
I would have to go back and watch your videos to see any specific things that I think we have a disagreement on. Didn't we both basically agree that Citizens United was a nearly impossible, like, constitutional or moral task to solve?
You guys can have this discussion, but I want to hammer on the fact that if we're talking about this specific case, the Wet'suwet'en case, okay, your contention here is that by instilling this pipeline, that positive that it brings to the general populace is going to outweigh, this essential cultural genocide against the Wet'suwet'en people. Okay?
I guess it'll probably be fine after the pipeline. I think they'll be okay. I think they'll make it.
Okay, I would disagree.
Wait, out of curiosity, if we could reverse the roles, okay, swap the genders, all right? Let's say we're talking about an alternative position where we live in an autocratic hierarchy, like our state is fundamentally undemocratic, and there's a small community of people who live in a say democratic special exempted section of that country, so like a reservation, and they democratically came to conclusions that were not conducive to the broader interests of the autocratic nation. Would you, with your current moral beliefs, say it's probably reasonable for those autocrats to take that land and do what they will with it because you don't really care, as a matter of priority, about the democratic beliefs of the people who are being downtrodden?
I mean, as much as I hate to say it, generally I tend to side almost de facto with like people that are a little bit more democratic. That might be my inner liberal speaking.
There's nothing wrong with democracy, friend.
I don't know about that.
I take it back. There's nothing worse about it than other things.
Sure. I think that inherently, I think that the autocratic people have a very strong argument to make. And I could definitely understand, as much as I might hate certain autocratic or totalitarian or authoritarian governments, I can understand when they're like, hold on, rest of the world. Why are you getting so fucking mad? These are supposed to be our special administrative region. Why the fuck are you trying to tell us what we can? I can definitely see the conflict there and the irritation that certain autocratic states might have with the rest of the world saying, well, hold on, but like these situations are obviously very complex too because of treaties with other nations as well. But yeah, I mean, like in general, in principle, I could understand the larger autocratic state being like, well, hold on, we're going to roll over this democratic region. Fuck them.
Do you think it's conceivable that the act of building the pipeline through the Wet'suwet'en territory would end up, in a consequentialist sense, doing more harm long term because it would further normalize I guess the obliteration of minority rights and autonomy in favor of like a broader national pursuit? I feel like, and I'm not saying this is exactly equivalent. I'm only saying I feel like it's similar to a lot of other arguments a person could make that would start bordering on cultural genocide.
And can I just rephrase that? Because this is a specific question I have for you, Destiny, is how is it that the benefits of this pipeline specifically would somehow outweigh the cultural genocide of the Wet'suwet'en people? That's the question
Because
I
a
want to know.
cultural genocide of 2,000 people is like first of all, it's a very hard, first of all, I don't even believe it would be an entire cultural genocide. And then secondly, it's hard to weigh like their discomfort having to move to some areas versus the actual material harm. I hate that fucking phrase, but against the actual material harm that would be caused to a lot of Canadians that don't have the ability to take advantage of those resources.
Who is really going to be harmed by not having this pipeline? Do you know?
Any Canadian that would have had a job that would have been involved with any of these industries. So everybody from lawyers that litigate things, all the way down to construction workers that build the pipeline, all the way down to anybody that works in a fossil fuel related job.
Do you
That's
think
like
job creation is the only important thing when it comes to this type of thing, though? Do you not think, like Vaush was saying, that the long-term environmental effects that the pipeline will have, and the fact that we're not putting energy
Well, I haven't touched on the
into creating-
environmental yet, but I was
The
curious.
environmental, you're a big loser there because if you want to talk about environmental effects, you have to invest in green energy. Right now, not building the pipeline probably has worse environmental effects because that same oil either has to be driven or it has to be transported overseas, which is going to be an even greater contributor to greenhouse gases, we might guess. But regardless, like in terms of like long-term harm, like I'm a
is
huge
valid.
globalist cuck. I think as many people should be rolled into like as large a fucking culture as possible. I think that people can have their own little areas and their own, like they can have their own little traditions and all that is great. But the idea of like sectioning off some parts of the world and being like, this is for, you know, this indigenous people only. This is only for, you know, white nationalist, Eurocentric people. This is only for like, nah, I'm not as
No,
big a
but
fan
this
of
is
that.
what I was talking to Vaush about at the start of the stream here, because I agree with you that at the end of the day, there needs to come a point, you know, if we want to have this globalist union of all peoples in the world, obviously we can't have these segments of lands that are, you know, completely off limits to everyone else. And I was even telling Vaush this, reservations are not really off limits to anyone who is not a member of that reservation. That is not how these indigenous cultures behave. They are incredibly welcoming to all people. What they don't like is the Canadian government who imposed upon them a very strict form of government that went against their wishes after they continually oppressed them for centuries, to the point where it's only been in the past couple of decades that we are now hearing these stories of the oppression that took place, you know, over the last 50 years. These people don't want that same government coming in and shoving a pipeline through their land.
Wait,
this is not about them.
Is there
attaching
another
themselves
place the
to
pipeline
land
could be
for the
built?
rest
I
of
understand.
history.
I understand this is an obscenely childish question, but if there was an additional expense the Canadian government could incur to put that pipeline elsewhere, does anyone know if there's a feasible?
So my
counterproject?
understanding, because I read a bit about the Keystone Pipeline, which I know isn't the same here, but generally
No,
there's
it's the gas link. Yeah.
Yes. So generally, there's a lot of different committees that come together to evaluate like the safest and cheapest and most feasible way of like laying a pipeline or whatever. My guess is going to be that this is the one that they ruled would have the least ecological damage and would have like the easiest to build and the less shit to tear up or whatever. That'd be my guess on this.
You know
Rather than
how
they're just doing it because they really want to fuck over these indigenous people.
I don't. Well, I didn't think that. I
Yeah.
don't think they care that much, though. They haven't historically.
Well, if we want to be real, they do care if for no other reason.
From an
because they know
optics,
that-
yeah, because it would get them in
Yeah.
shit if they didn't. I mean, like fundamentally, I don't think they
Well,
care
no,
much
it's the
about
legal.
the indigenous.
They'd be most concerned about the legal repercussions of it, because ultimately, if this goes to Canadian court, which it almost certainly will, this is what I was telling Vaush.
Sorry, let me clarify. Their point of care doesn't come from the same cucky, bleeding heart liberal shithole that
Yes,
my
of
chest
course.
Yeah, of
holds.
course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
But
So
when
with
this
that,
goes to court-
with that being said, is it conceivable, Destiny? Do you think that much in the same way that it is often beneficial to lie to other people, but it ultimately hurts you because if it comes out you're a liar, no one will ever trust you again. Do you think that establishing a reputation on the part of the Canadian government for engaging in this sort of behavior might ultimately lead to a subversion of values which are antithetical to, you know, maintaining a democratic society? I
Yeah,
know
of
for a
course, we're
fact.
talking about like establishing a rule that's going to lead to future harm, right? This is why I said that like I don't think you can have I don't think these reservations. I don't think that makes sense. Like there are so many problems related to how these are ran, at least in the United States, maybe not in Canada, but definitely in the United States. It feels like it would just make more sense to roll them into your federal system.
I know you keep saying that, but these people resist that. They see that literally as cultural genocide, Destiny. That is what they view that. You would be eradicating their culture as a result.
Cool. Well, sounds like Paul Revere or somebody needs to go ride around or get some Federalist Papers written up by John whatever and then try to convince him to join.
Well, to be fair, that
I'm explaining to you how they are going to actually view that act. You say, well, why can't they do? Because look at the fucking history, the
my
way
issue is that
Canadian
was
government
also a
practices
might
the
makes
people.
right argument. If you believe, like the argument you would make, well, the argument you would have to make would be that I believe the utilitarian benefit that we get out of the placement of this pipeline, even if it leads to what they would consider to be cultural genocide, is still ultimately better for society. society. But when you defer back to this, like, well, better hope they join with Paul Revere thing, what it makes it sound like is, well, it is a shame they don't have the strength to enforce their will. I think that's a fair reading.
That. I just think it's kind of silly to assume that like it's literally impossible for these people. They're like such savages that it's impossible that they could ever exist under like a larger federal system, that their culture will necessarily disappear immediately.
Why not just listen to what they fucking say, Destiny? You can literally
you don't
listen
want to because they already voted on it and they disagreed with you. The council already voted.
Oh my God! No.
To be fair, we know this does happen though.
You are ignoring the way that the government has structured the First Nation organization.
You literally admitted yourself that you don't know how many people aren't able to not vote.
The issue, I'm sure we can all agree that the Wet'suwet'en people wouldn't literally fucking die if they had to move or join up with the broader. I don't think Rem actually thinks that. What I do would be the worst impact. What I do think is that we've kind of seen this pattern play out before in sub-Saharan Africa and in the Middle East when people, I guess we would call them indigenous by today's standards, have their borders or their geographic cultural heritage carved up by the bureaucratic expectations of Western or any more powerful governments. It generally leads to outcomes that are very devastating in the long term. And while I don't think that the Wet'suwet'en people are some sort of horrifically genocidal, or sorry, not genocidal, like animalistic people who could possibly survive without whatever rivers and forests they were born next to. Destiny, as a person who has a fairly low expectation of the average person, I'm sure you can understand that such a cultural uprooting would lead to long-term suffering and systemic inequality going probably many generations into the future. That kind of stuff just can't really be done well, I don't think.
Assuming that the people are like compensated adequately, so financially, obviously like if there's going to be a house destroyed or you have to move, that you should be provided the funds or whatever, like you would with an eminent domain thing, at least in the United States. I imagine they have similar things in Canada. Yeah, you would have to compensate the people for it. I refuse to believe that there exists some group of people on the planet that are so incapable of like moving to a different area, like given financial means and everything to do so, that their whole culture will just die out. That just sounds ridiculous, absurd to me. I'm sorry.
Maybe not die out, but be wounded severely. No, I'm sure you can.
I refuse to believe that. No, I don't believe that.
Wait, can we talk about that? Because I feel like that's a strange position for you to take. When we say die out, I mean, I'm sure you can imagine, and I apologize if I'm being reductivist here. I don't know fuck all about what the Wet'suwet'en people believe. But like, I'm sure we can imagine that, especially for some indigenous cultures, the tie to the land in which you have been raised for centuries, I imagine, is great enough that the removal from that land is going to be more emotionally damaging to those groups than any amount of material compensation could ever possibly restitute them for. And while I agree, as a big brain,
another river or another piece
but it's not.
But
wait. But you recognize another tree is not the same. Wait. But yeah, I don't want to get all bleeding heart about this. But you recognize
bleeding heart is stating basic facts about the way that indigenous people view their culture and land, and it's being dismissed like it's not relevant. Okay, well, that's the entire thing of our discussion.
I know they can find another river, another tree, but considering some of these cultural forms develop over the course of centuries. The idea that you can just go like, well, here you go, guys. Look, that big tree over there. That kind of looks like your old village tree, doesn't it? And you've got that over there. I think this is a little bit naive. If you want to acknowledge that because there are two routes you can take here, I think, that are reasonable. You can either say that cultural damage they will suffer is irrational because culture shouldn't derive from your geographic location, in which case, fuck them, which would be consistent, I guess, if maybe a little heartless. Or you could say, I simply don't care about the damage done to the culture because utilitarian benefit, blah, blah, blah. But deferring to this whole they'll find another tree thing, I think, kind of demonstrates a paternalistic disregard for the structure of their culture that might be hampering your ability to understand.
I was dealing at
society deals with the cities, annex other cities. We dealt with it in Nebraska when Omaha had to annex a city so that they could continue to expand outwards to the economic benefit of everybody. Like, I guess the city doesn't have as much a culture as like come on, right?
Yeah, I'm not a cuck, dude, but you know that's true.
Come on, dude, you're literally telling me that like, well, fuck the 40 million Canadians. Like these people have these as their favorite
no. I'm just no. Wait, please, Rem, please, Rem, please. Wait, please, guys, please,
So,
I
Vosh,
bless.
Vosh, I
I'm
have a
please.
question. Vosh, I have a question.
Wait, can I
How
answer?
much economic damage would have to be suffered before they would have to find a new tree? Can you tell me that?
I'm not telling you that there's a threshold. I'm asking you to acknowledge that there is unique cultural damage being done, and then to say, in spite of that, okay. But when you say stuff like they'll find another tree or the city of Omaha was incorporated, I think you're downplaying it, and that makes me wonder if you understand the extent to which this could.
I do. You guys are making these fucking weird ass white nationalist arguments.
No, please. I've done this whole arc myself. Please don't make me go through it.
Cultures change. Rosh, I know you know this, Vosh. Cultures change and adapt to new stuff all of the fucking
But there's a
time.
difference. There's a difference between
different people. They move through different mediums all the time.
But the critical.
If these people move, will there be some damage caused to the culture? Sure. Are there going to be stories revolving around certain lands that they maybe won't be able to tell anymore, or that will be lost? Sure, that's possible. But I bet they'll get new stories. I bet they'll develop a new culture. I bet they'll integrate past stuff into new stuff. That's just how
That is
entirely
possible. But the difference here is we're talking about mitigative periods of damage. When cultures change naturally through the ebb and flow of people and time, there's no damage point there. I wake up. Wait. I'm sorry. Let me clarify, because I don't want to misspeak. Okay, culture has changed massively over the past 20 years in the United States of America, but this is done through a fairly natural process of people.
There's no such thing as natural culture change.
Well, okay, wait. Do you wait? I'm sorry. I need you to commit to that statement. Then, do you believe that with regards to culture, there is no fundamental difference between the natural ebb and flow of culture over time and a culture being destroyed by the actions of a state deliberately in favor of economic benefits? Do you think there's a fundamental difference between the culture of the African tribes in the West Bank changing and the culture being destroyed?
You asked me like 17 questions. Let's focus on one question.
It was one question phrased in two different ways.
So the first part of the question is there a difference between culture being changed by a state versus naturally? Is that what you're asking, or?
Do you think there are different?
Before you ask the question, here's the counter I'm going to give you. Right?
Okay.
Is white nationalists include will say things like immigrants are foreign invaders that are ruthlessly changing our culture, right? Like that's an argument that I've heard. Is that that does kind of happen, right? When enough of a certain type of people move in there, does the culture change? Well, yeah, to some extent. Now, would I consider that natural or unnatural? Well, I don't know. Talking about natural changes to culture is really weird. When Mount St. Helen exploded, that added a lot of culture to a lot of, or Mount Vesuvius or other giant volcanic eruptions, that changed the culture. That was natural, right? But that was also violent, and that was very extreme. I don't know, when you ask me about a natural culture change versus an unnatural one, I mean, that's.
Would you mind if I didn't use the word natural and used a more specific term?
In the same way that indigenous people.
Yeah,
it's not a fair comparison.
But even if we're not talking about different modes of oppression here, then how about we say that different ways in which a culture can be changed can be destructive in very different ways. So American culture has changed massively over the past 20 years. I'm a little fucking baby. I've barely registered it. I've just been playing video games. But the culture of the black people who were brought over from Africa during the transatlantic slave trade probably, that was a culture change, and fuck it, they did get another culture. African American culture today, we synthesized through a bunch of different syncretic forces, is a pretty powerful force.
Is the most powerful driving force across several media.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did some. They're good. Yeah,
the world in terms of jazz, hip hop. Yeah, all came from.
No, that's it. No, and I agree. And if we displace the Wet'suwet'en people, and 200 years later they invent mega future jazz, that's great. But can we recognize that didn't?
Real quick, just to be clear, that doesn't justify bringing African Americans.
I know you didn't mean. I know you didn't mean that.
I just need to say that because I know Rem was real quick to make that trade. I know he was waiting to.
Okay, I know you. I know you didn't mean that, but do you understand how it can be a little bit callous and maybe even a little ignorant to say, well, the damage done to their culture is irrelevant because in some indeterminate number of centuries they'll find a way to pick back up?
Yeah, it's callous because you're making me defend the one side of this while no one here will address the other side, which are the tens of thousands of more potential Canadians who are being damaged by having to sell their oil for cheap.
But that's
they don't have access to markets in the West. That's all of the people that are unemployed right now after COVID-19 who aren't going to get any jobs related to fossil fuels because we can't build the pipeline for you. How do you defend all of that?
That's my genjutsu. That's my Kekai Genjin. I agree with you. The implementation of the pipeline in a utilitarian sense probably does do more good than whatever harm it does to the Wet'suwet'en people. But my goal for that, in having a conversation on it, wouldn't be to downplay the extent to which it would do damage to their culture, but rather to acknowledge the fact that A, this is a horrible situation, and B, what systemically can we do to mitigate damage done to the greatest possible extent. I just want you to say, we will do horrible damage to them.
Yes, for woke points, I can acknowledge that, but everyone in here earlier just said there is no material compensation for the loss of that land. So it doesn't seem like there's anything we can do to prevent any systemic harm anyway.
Well,
that's just a pill you got to swallow.
Well, we can talk about that. How much do you think? How much would you believe it would be worthwhile for the Canadian government to sacrifice in order to appease the people they're harming with this?
That should be very fucking easy for the Canadian government to calculate, because I'm sure there is some vested economic interest in having this pipeline up, so they could give maybe a percentage of the profits that are gone by running that pipeline to the people, or maybe they could pay them fair value for the land that they're going to be infringing on, or maybe they can give them, you know, like some flat sum based on I don't know, any number of things. I'm sure is a huge economic drive in Canada to get this pipeline built, so there should be the money back behind it to compensate the people whose land you're essentially invading and taking for said pipeline space. That should be there.
Okay, but my main issue here, and I agree that that's a take that can be defended, is that it felt like the presuppositions you were making in order to arrive at that conclusions were what we're doing isn't so bad, they'll get over it. It's protecting culture is dumb anyway. If we can acknowledge that great harm is being done, I think we can have a more reasonable conversation about how to mitigate it.
Sure, I guess great harm is being done then, sure.
Do you think I'm being unfair?
No, I think you're being fair. It's just something I don't care about. But I think you're being fair. I understand. I think we probably agree mostly on this. Vaush is more trying to be more like rhetorically safe. Like I understand that, like, and like I would acknowledge that yeah, of course there's going to be some harm and there's going to be some irreplaceable part of that culture that'll change. But I think that people like Rem take it way too far with this cringy fucking white person take of like, oh, their whole culture is going to be destroyed with the pipeline. Like I'm pretty sure these people have suffered so much more in the past. These people have suffered so much more over the past 400 years that a single pipeline going through 20,000 square kilometers of land isn't going to wipe them off the face of the earth.
I can defend Rem too. Yeah.
Like, Vaush, like, you look at the way that he's acting. I'm trying to ask you legitimate questions. You refuse to answer them in any serious way. So
wait, I don't, or he doesn't?
You don't, Vaush.
Oh shit. No, okay, just clarifying. I mean, okay, wait. You two are both obviously triggered as fuck by each other by the earlier conversation. Okay, I think that's fairly obvious. Okay, no, I've been watching you long enough. Okay, buddy. So that's fine. Okay, I get it. It's a difficult conversation. All right, I'm just trying to fucking play Terraria. But if we're going to have this conversation, it's important to me that we're all coming to it from the same basic presuppositions. Acknowledging that great cultural harm is being done is very important as a presuppositional step for me. Much in the same way that I can't have a conversation about reparations with people who are making arguments like, well, they should have been over slavery by now. Even though that isn't necessarily intrinsically a component of their end argument, it makes me think there might be biases leading into it. So if we've acknowledged that is the case, if we've acknowledged that great cultural harm is being done, do you have any like reasonable solutions for what could be done? Like rolling them into the dominant culture?
You have to materially compensate them. That's the only thing I can think of. Like you can't like...
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, what's up?
Okay, so I want this is one thing that really bugged me about, because one of my biggest issues that I've had with you, regardless, because ultimately, if you had just said at the end of the day that the utilitarian outcomes, for example, of instilling the pipeline and the benefit that brings to the average, Canadian, that will, in a sense, outweigh the benefits that it would cause to the indigenous people to not have a pipeline shoved through their land. If that was ultimately your only statement, we would not have the type of spat that we currently have. My biggest issue is the way that you've come at this topic and completely dismissed the culture and the legitimate culture and worldview that indigenous people have, as well as ignore the actual Canadian history by which something like the Band Council was instituted on the indigenous people. And that's what I think is quite bigoted, because you ignore these very real issues that are actually afflicting the Wet'suwet'en people. And your entire rhetoric when we had our discussion yesterday, and the rhetoric that you have made during this conversation, is my biggest issue with you. And I don't understand why you won't actually discuss that topic with me.
I don't disagree with anything that Remus said, by the way, just if I'm throwing my weight in one direction. This feels to me a little bit like it feels to me a little bit like the moving conversation, or like the just move thing, where I'm sure that if you and I like sat down and had an argument about the effect that like moving can have on like systemic poverty and how it can be difficult for an individual to move, we would agree. But in the context of the conversation that we were having, it felt like you were massively downplaying that to make a point. And I understand that can be I'm not trying to dogpile or anything.
Well, first of all, I attacked your character because you literally pulled a Mr. Medicare snipe on like a tweet clip 30 seconds after we got. Like, I don't know if you like fucking came immediately after so that you could post that clip on Twitter. So yeah, fuck you. Okay. The reason why I wouldn't use like some sort of like utilitarian calculus here is because like
the tweet,
the value of
that tweet. You agree with that tweet?
Cool story, bro. Okay, so the problem is that like
just so I know what exactly is being referred to here. I'm just curious. I don't know.
I tweeted out basically an exact statement of what his position is that at the end of the day, for the sake of of benefiting the average American Canadian, we are free to displace these indigenous people from their land, thereby, as you acknowledged in our discussion yesterday, essentially committing cultural genocide against their culture. That is what you admitted to when you said, ultimately, if that's the cause of it, then I don't care. That is what you said. And you've even restated that today on this stream. And you're treating it like it's this massive character attack in which, like, even though that's literally what you advocated for, and instead you go on stream and say that I'm only doing philosophy to make it feel good, that I don't really care about indigenous people, I just want to be
white. Don't forget that one.
Vicious character attacks that are completely unwarranted. When I literally just
We love
stated
white people here, so it's
that
okay.
you said on stream yesterday and what you said on stream today. That's why I'm pissed off, and you're treating it like this was this massive takedown of you when I literally stated what you said. Unless you disagree with the way that I stated
tweet. So I'll explain what Rem's tweet was. I'll explain what the implications are. Rem is going to say, "Oh, I didn't know that was the implications," and then we'll be back at ground zero, I guess. So Rem tweeted, Destiny saying that the Canadian government should invade all native communities if the natural resources are wanted, remove them from their lands, and thereby assimilate them into Canadian culture. So the implication of what you're saying there is that Canada literally marches its fucking military into native lands, kills them or kicks them the fuck out, and then forces them to wear like fucking whatever clothes that normal Canadian people.
I the clips, Destiny. I attached to that tweet.
So now here's where he denies the implication, and then we both have to
Would it
agree
be?
to disagree.
Can I say that? Well, I do think that.
You want to commit genocide against all those people and literally kill them all?
I don't think Rem's characterization of your argument was any more hyperbolic than yours at some points, though. You can maybe
said that the Canadian government should invade the fucking lands with guns.
Okay, I apologize. Wait, I apologize if I'm misremembering because I do legitimately have a very bad memory. But I think you actually in this conversation said that what the Canadian government would do is essentially invade the land. I think I remember that.
What I'm saying is that like if push came to shove with like some global catastrophe, that at the end of the day, that's probably what would happen. Yeah, like if there was like a global oil shortage or some shit, and like everything was fucked and people couldn't drive their cars, then yeah, they probably would start to invade like sovereign land. I'm not saying that should be like a first resort. Like let's just start invading all of the like native territories.
That's the only way that they can get that. You would support invading their land, displacing them, and by result eradicating their culture, which is what my tweet stated. And then you come back at me with this vicious character attack, accusing me of being a white savior, not actually caring about indigenous people. Like, what the fuck? I understand you think that's really funny.
Wait, hold on, please.
Canadians so much. Can you tell me why you don't care about native Canadians?
Would it be possible for me to jump in here really quickly? My issue.
I just want to know why. I want to know why Rem fucking hates Canadians and oil workers so much.
I also am very curious, but I will have to get to that in just a second because I'm very curious about something myself. Destiny, you're saying that you didn't say that you would advocate for the Canadian government invading the Wet'suwet'en people, only if there was some sort of global catastrophe or something along that lines. Can I ask you, if the Canadian government decided to implement the pipeline and the Wet'suwet'en people said, no, we're defending our land, would you then advocate the Canadian government has the moral authority, the right to go on ahead and essentially invade the land to implement the pipeline?
Yeah, I think if you run it down all the way, I think yeah.
Okay,
but I mean,
then my follow-up to that.
This is true of literally like every form of law, right? So for instance, like should a police officer be able to kill you for a speeding ticket?
No, then if you try and attack him, yeah. But my problem then is, you've had conversations in the past before where people say, I'm not violent, I just want to demographically displace non-white people from the country. To which you say, well, how is that non-violent? What happens if they resist? And then say, well, we kill them. And then you say, well, that sounds pretty violent. The violence is implicit in the state action.
Sure, but the difference here is that it seems like the majority of these people, or I guess there's a lot of people, whatever that means to Rem, that are against this. It seems like there is a reasonable deal that can be reached here. I don't think it's reasonable to offer to pay all African Americans to leave the United States.
But aren't we presupposing the value of their democratic input though? Because we're making the argument that it doesn't matter what they want.
And Vaush, this is exactly the point I was trying to make to you, Destiny, is because there needs to be a real conversation about the status of the band councils in the Wet'suwet'en Nation.
Yeah, I agree. They should be rolled into Canadian's federal system.
I'm just saying that since we're
discussion about the legitimacy of that democratically elected band council.
I'm just saying since we're presupposing the irrelevant. Wait, one minute. If we're
Rem is trying to defend monarchs to you right now in patriarchy.
Listen, I'll do that.
Actual serious discussion.
I'll take a crack at that. I'll take a crack at that next. I just want to say, if we're presuming the unimportance, the not illegitimacy, the irrelevance of the democratic will of the Wet'suwet'en people, which we fundamentally have here in this consequentialist argument, blah, blah, we need to do what's better for the people. If we're doing that, then we're implicitly suggesting that their will isn't really relevant, which means that the state action imposed on them is one which will always carry with it the de facto threat of violence, i.e. the characterization of your argument as Canada invading the Wet'suwet'en people, while hyperbolic, is honestly, I don't think, dishonest.
I think it's dishonest because I don't think reasonably it would ever come to that. Much the same way that if I were to tweet out, I think you should be able to murder.
Has happened in the past 20
God.
years, Destiny. No,
Rem,
the Canadian government.
Rem, I just want to let you know two things, Rem. One,
reservations.
I just want
Look
you.
up the
Okay,
Oka crisis.
I understand.
Look
I
up
have
the
two
Oka
responses to you, Rem. One, I don't care. Two, plus
It's not
right.
reasonable that it
Okay.
will ever come
So
to that.
if I were to tweet out, okay.
When did you get on that,
police
Destiny?
officers,
You're
if I were
white.
to tweet out that, like, I am half Cuban. Plus you're white, okay?
shit.
I don't think that police officers, okay, if I say something like, oh, I think that, like, speeding should be illegal, and somebody were to retweet that and be like, oh, Destiny's position is that you should be able to be murdered for driving your car 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. Technically, they're right? If a police officer pulls you over, you resist arrest, you don't get into the car, they try to, like, they write you a ticket, you say no, they're like, okay, well, I have to detain you, they say no, they start fighting you, and invariably, that would at some point escalate to violence, right?
Would you retract your arguments with the ethnostaters then?
Literally a position where the
I'm sorry.
people are not willing to give up that land. So of course, what is going to be the end result?
I just
what did you say, Bob?
would you retract your arguments with the ethnostaters then, where you say that it's fundamentally violent to try and deport people from their homes because there's a very high likelihood of them resisting? I imagine if the U.S. government sent soldiers to my town and just started rounding up black folk, a lot of them would just go along with it because they don't have rifles and tanks. Would you then argue that's not fundamentally a violent action because you would imagine there are routes for that to take place that don't involve, like, killing them?
No, I would argue that it's different because, one, they would probably never make a good faith effort to even do the compensation route in the first place. I seriously doubt that everybody would be okay, like, oh, we'll give every black person like $250,000 to move to another country. And then two, because I don't think that that's like a reasonable route that anybody's looking at right now in terms of like, oh, like, I think that most black people would leave the U.S. given a certain amount of money. Whereas it does look like there is a deal that can be reached with Native peoples in regards to building a pipeline through their land.
What if that turned out not to be the case, that the ability to live in your homeland as a black person here in America is as a bit as valuable to them as the ability for them to live in their homeland as Wet'suwet'en people?
Then I think at some point, I think as a Canadian, I think you have to ask yourself, like, what you value more, and if maybe, like, so, because let's say that it does come to the point to where, like, oh, well, they're standing there, we're gonna have to fucking kill these people to build a pipeline. You have to think, well, am I okay rolling tanks through and just murdering, 2,000 people in this tribe, or maybe should we consider building the pipeline, across a different area? I think maybe that would be the question you'd have to ask yourself. I think most people would probably say, like, well, maybe we try to find a way to reposition the pipeline.
What would your answer be?
What would my answer be?
If there was no way to implement it without, like, state violence being enacted against those people.
Which is almost certainly what
we would have to make. You don't know that, Rem, because you don't know anything about these people because you're totally unread here. Plus, you're white.
No, hold on.
Why are you doing that?
Get away with this. I know you're just doing it to trigger me, but you're making blatant lies on the stream. And then when I actually try to explain a single thing about the Wet'suwet'en people, you completely ignore me.
I think he's doing it because it works.
It's funny. I get DGG thinks it's funny. But you're talking about an actual serious
I just want to
issue.
make sure that nobody forgets here what's going on, okay? I just want to get all the facts on the table, okay?
No,
so
obviously
anyway,
we don't.
Are the Polish
have a
white?
serious discussion.
So, like,
Gosh, you
Rem,
shouldn't be
or-
allowing him to do this on
Wait,
your
wait,
stream.
wait,
right
well,
now.
So,
wait,
Rem,
Rem,
so
no,
no engagement.
please, I'm the host. The reason, Rem, the reason why, I'm the host and the moderator this time, okay?
Well, you're not moderating.
And he's white.
I'm white. Listen, I'm trying to engage the way I can because I feel like you two have some serious mutual biases that you're engaging in right now, and I think that I don't know how well, like, the discourse is going to be arrived at from conversations between you two at this point.
You can just listen to the way that he's engaging.
Oh
with
yeah.
me.
Wait. No. Yeah. He's treating you in super bad faith. Yeah, and you're trying to treat him in good faith, but he's only treating you that way because he.
Do you think I'm treating him in bad faith right now, Vaush?
No, I think you're making a good faith effort, but I think that he is under the impression that your initial efforts in engaging with him were bad faith or at least misinformed enough that he doesn't have a reasonable expectation of engaging with you in good faith. And at that point, there's no way to have a. I mean, I can't speak for him or anything. That's just the impression.
That's all you seem to care about.
That's why I'm streaming this on my channel and it's going to be uploaded later. You got it. Okay,
Why
so
did you join our
anyway.
conversation?
Wait,
if you
me?
refused to
Wait.
engage with me?
Wait, are
Oh,
you
because I
streaming?
don't want
Are
you running
banned?
around telling people that I'm like some imperialist colonizer who
You've
wants to
literally
invade and
acknowledged
murder
that
and
you
culturally
agreed with the
genocide
part
people.
of the tweet I sent out.
Okay,
You
listen.
agreed with it.
Okay, there are two main reasons why I came in here. One, I don't want you going around telling people that I'm a literal in favor of invading and destroying fucking lands of people. And two, you're white.
I never,
okay?
hold on, I never said that. I literally laid out.
Is this a
with
new?
Vaush.
Is this?
Vaush, did I not lay out very clearly what his position was? And has what he said differed at all from the way I characterized it?
I think that your characterization of his argument as the Canadian government is due in invading or I guess like displacing these people, I would consider that a fair characterization, though I think that there are different levels of charitability you could assign to that interpretation. Like, for example, there's a big difference between somebody saying like, well, I think that in a utilitarian sense, we derive more benefit from the use of that pipeline, so if it came to it, I'd be willing to enact state action with some kind of due compensation for the people, and what other people would interpret, which would be Destiny literally just wants to mow in with tanks and kill them and implement the pipeline.
But I attached the clips to so people could actually hear.
He included the clips. Did you even look at the clips?
Destiny, why doesn't your
Vaush?
friend follow me on Twitter?
I'm just saying, in the clips, I literally say, I think Canada should go in and murder every person that like doesn't pass the white
No,
person.
why are you
like
characterizing
Remwood.
that? I didn't characterize you at all like that, so I don't know why you're peddling in these fucking lies. I don't understand. I legitimately...
He's using sneaky debate tactics, right?
I know he's just doing quips. I understand. It's funny. Haha. Like I get it, but I want to have an actual conversation about the issue. This is something I genuinely care about.
Okay, wait, but we've actually made pretty decent.
Wait, Vaush, you asked me an earlier question that I thought was really interesting. Okay, so you asked me, what if the people like wouldn't back down? What, like, pragmatically, what should Canada do? So like, this is an interesting hypothetical to engage with. I'm going to avoid it. So the question would be like, how plausible is it to build a pipeline around? So for instance, let's say that there are two possible alternatives. Let's say that one, it's actually not that difficult. It would just cost like maybe another $250 million, right? Let's say that on the other hand, let's say that you have to go through like two tribes' ancestral lands at that point, and now you've got like double the contention, right? Do you acknowledge that like at some point you are going to have to kind of like brute force it? Or do you just say like, well, sorry for the rest of you Canadian people, like these people in these lands have like authoritarian control within the borders of Canada. I know none of you guys have that. None of you other provinces have the rights that these people do. Their rights literally supersede your own, and you're all just going to have to suffer as a result of it.
Well, just keep in mind the only reason why you're framing their relationship to Canada in that way is because they accept welfare from the government. Because if they didn't, if it weren't for the original history of colonization, the Wet'suwet'en people would probably be in a sovereign, truly sovereign territory. So it seems a little bit, okay, or something approximating it. What's difficult to me is putting them in a position where it's like, okay, well, unfortunately, you're ultimately subject to the will of the Canadian people because you're in a position where you take advantage of our like wealth and resources anyway. Why are they in that position? Oh, well, because we like killed your people like 300 years ago, you know?
Sure. The problem is that like, even if just to be clear, even if they weren't taking federal money, if they were their own sovereign state, we would start enacting other forms of violence on them to probably get them to buckle to the pipeline. So for instance, we would probably start sanctioning them, or we would say like, okay, well, you're going to have tariffs, or you're not allowed to trade with our country if you're going to oppose this thing. Rather than if you go along with this, then we would offer you some economic benefit. We'd either pay you direct cash transfer, or we would have like some preferential trade treatment or whatever.
Do you think it's morally permissible that more powerful nations should always have the ability to begin to damage the nations around them if they feel they can get something from it? I understand pragmatically.
Okay, hold on, because you phrased that in a way where it's like, oh, well, obviously we should always. But what you're considering is you're looking at two actors here. You're only looking at a big country and a small country, but you're not taking into account the people in that country. Because the way that you ask me that is really morally loaded. Do you think a big country should have a right to shit all over a small country? But I could just as easily flip that and go, do you think that a very small country with very few people should be able to destroy the material well-being of tens of millions of other people? Because that's how you could very easily phrase it in the account, right?
But that would be an uncharitable phrasing of my argument, because you can't reasonably say the Wet'suwet'en people would be destroying anything if they already have a legal and moral right to the territory that controls the oil.
No, just because you have a legal and moral right doesn't mean you can't be damaging the material harm. Technically,
damaging kind of implies they're doing a harm as opposed to not doing a good. By not giving them the oil, they wouldn't be doing a harm, they'd be refraining from doing a good. The difference between like an obligatory and a supererogatory action is very important to me.
This gets into weird like doing versus allowing harm. And
Yeah,
whether
yeah,
or not
no,
we
but
like
I think
draw a
that's
distinction.
valid. I would draw a hard line here. Yeah, based on the legacy of colonialism and the outcomes that it seems to bring about, I would be comfortable with saying that smaller nations should be able to defend their sovereign borders against the impositions of larger nations, even if doing so means the larger nation is going to have a population suffer more for it. Now, obviously, there's wiggle
that just
room
seems
there.
like a weird position for me to demand that a nation have such ultra charitability to a smaller country next to it or within it that it's going to allow that country's existence to cause like material damage to some of its poorest citizens.
But the problem is,
like,
that's
what you're
only a
advocating for.
choice. That's only a choice the tough nations get to make. The weaker nations never get to actually participate in that dialogue. They don't get to decide to what extent do I enforce soft political power on my neighbors. The issue with this is, even if you can make good arguments for it, where you're stacking the deck in favor of a system where the powerful nations are the only ones that have any real sovereignty.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but that's kind of just an unfortunate reality of the world, right? Like, just because some smaller nations don't have as much bargaining power as larger nations, that means that larger nations should never bargain on behalf of their citizens. Like, that doesn't
well,
really make
they
sense.
can bargain, but there's a difference between bargaining and embargoes attempting to hurt the neighboring nation. It's just it feels like we're like trying to play a game where we know for a fact which groups are going to win. I don't know if that sits well with me, especially given the fact
of course.
that
I guess my problem is that like we're valuing the culture, I guess, of some 3,000 people over like the material well-being.
Well, right now, I'm not talking about the
thousands or tens of
culture. I'm
thousands.
only talking about the sovereign rights of the Wet'suwet'en people, which are only subverted in this case due to a history of colonialism. If we ignore that, because I don't pay any respect whatsoever to the legal precedent of like which nations destroyed which ones.
I don't know if like the history of colonialism changes like any of the calculations here, other than like if you want to argue that the history of colonialism should be taken into account, then maybe like a larger cash transfer has to happen or something, I guess. But like because if we were to talk about the history of colonialism, we were talking about like actually compensating these people for what they've lost. The true answer at that point is we should give them back all of their lands, which means sailing back on over to Europe.
True, but
So
I would
never going to happen.
I would
right?
argue that the people who live now in Canada have like a right to their land as well. I don't know if they have a
Why,
right to
though?
the well because I don't like displacing people, which is why we're having this argument to begin with, right? I don't think that the Canadian people necessarily have a right to the natural resources of non-compliant, independent, sovereign nations, and I don't think that the independent sovereign nations have a right to then, centuries later, displace people who were just born in Canada. I think it's really difficult to balance this geopolitically because no matter which way you go, you're probably going to contribute harm in some direction.
That
Just
seems like a weird like moral
historically-
position to take where it's like I'm going to do this harm so that my children don't have to. So like you move in, you invade all the sovereign lands, you say I accept this moral evil, and then 100 years later your children are like, oh, we can live on these lands, but it's okay because the evil was committed a long time ago. Thank God they made that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm
sacrifice."
not going to hold the ancestors. I'm not going to hold people accountable for the moral wrongs of their ancestors. That seems pretty
Well, but we
fucked up.
kind of should a little bit, right? Like in the form of like reparations. I say that, but like recompensing like communities that have had their labor stolen or their land stolen or something. I guess like at the end of the day, like I acknowledge that it's pretty complicated. This is why I hate the concept of like these like reservations because they're never truly going to be sovereign, right? Everyone knows that it's not going to happen, and it seems like it would just make more sense to roll these people like into your actual federal system, give them a real voice in parliament, and then like incorporate them into your system like you would every other citizen.
Would you
Give
make
them a
the
voice, and
argument
then-
that there is no place left in the world for people, at least in our corner of the world, to exist outside the purview of a liberal democracy? That if your culture is fundamentally incompatible with one which is the basis of our legal system, that you shouldn't be given any space in which to practice that?
Wait, that you shouldn't be allowed to practice like another form of government? Or
Yeah,
what? Can you say
like
that again?
fundamentally, there's no room in our chunk of the world anymore for people to participate in like the hereditary tribal structures that the Wet'suwet'en people believe in. That like if you believe that shit, like sorry, you need to be rolled into the broader democratic liberalism of our society.
I think that you can practice it on a smaller level, like on a religious level. So for instance, like there are some Muslims that like to practice some forms of like Sharia law. So like if you steal something, maybe you get swatted a few times, or Catholics say that you have to form some amount or do some amount of contrition, like if you commit like a certain moral crime or whatever. I think that those smaller systems are okay. But in terms of how the larger government system works, you probably all should have to fall in line, I think, in order for it to work. The alternative to that is some form of anarchy.
Do you think it's possible to do that long term over a form of incentive structures rather than actively just rolling them in, like with some big legislation? Like, if I could think of a way to do this ideally, what I would imagine it would be is like maybe the broader government, or like the government of Canada, could try to could try to offer like incentives or grants or some kind of tax reduction for people from Wet'suwet'en or other like associated territories if they decide to like live long term in those countries, and that way we'd have like this soft pressure to incorporate, which I think frankly a lot of them would prefer to, because I don't think that a young person born in Wet'suwet'en territory should be forced into their culture any more than I think somebody born in America should be forced into ours. And then if they're eventually like incentivized into rolling over here, then over the period of maybe like 60 or 70 years, the Wet'suwet'en culture is no longer substantial enough to hold claim to that territory. Sorry, that was a bit wordy, but like, do you think that would be
so
like...
basically you're asking me, would it be better to like slowly roll them in rather than to do it violently and in like 2 days, right?
Yeah, even if it meant a sacrifice. Yeah, like we wouldn't be able to get as much immediately.
Sure, there probably are more responsible ways to do it that could also maybe set a positive precedent in the future for other. But I mean, other people might just see that as like they're going to resist the entire way, and maybe it like, well, fuck, I don't know. I would actually have to think about that a lot more.
I would have to do this. I don't have answers to this. I'm just curious.
Because like on one hand, it sounds good that you do it more gently, but on another hand, like you know how in the U.S. when we're like, maybe we should have background checks for private sales. Now, as much as it hurts to say this, a lot of conservatives that oppose background checks, they don't actually oppose background checks. What they're scared of is that, well, if we let you do background checks now, tomorrow you're going to want to take our guns. That they see it as like a slippery slope. Yeah. So I worry that like, yeah, any type of like deal that you start to make, people are like, well, no, fuck you. We're not going to do any of this soft shit because we know what your ultimate goal is, and that's assimilation. And we don't want to do that. That would be like my guess. Is that, or that could happen, right? As a result.
I know for a fact that would happen because there are people who are in my chat who believe that offering an incentive for people born in the Wet'suwet'en territories to join like the Canadian society broadly, that they would consider that cultural genocide. This is where I guess I depart from a lot of the woker people, because I believe the belief that a person, because of their blood, should be locked into the Wet'suwet'en culture is every bit as toxic as the idea that just because you're born into like a given ethnic group that you shouldn't be able to do other things with your life. If individual Wet'suwet'en people, through the course of their life, with no pressure from the state, want to live comfortably in like the broader purview of democratic liberal society, then I think that's probably a good thing. It's definitely a simpler thing in the long term, but if they don't want to, if they hold their land, I just don't know if I could morally excuse state action being taken to break apart their culture.
Sure, I understand, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't have as much of value in culture, and I'm obviously I don't know if you'd call me a statist, whatever the opposite of an anarchist is. I love states.
And
I love state power.
Cringe lord.
Yeah, I love it when the state tells individuals that you have to fucking fall in line for the benefit of everybody else. That shit gets my cock rock fucking hard. So I mean, yeah, I mean, when I look at like this much material benefit that could, or well-being that could exist across all of Canada, and there's just a few hundred people stopping it, yeah, I mean, I kind of fall inside of like, we need to figure out a way to make the pipeline work.
All right. Well, I think that at least in this conversation, you've come off a lot more conscientious of the long-term or material harm that it could potentially do. A slight departure, if I may. You said you hated me on Twitch. Do you still hold to that? Should I be offended, or are we
Every
just
time I talk to you motherfuckers, the next minute, as soon as you guys get on Twitter, you're like, in this conversation, Destiny said you wanted to murder everybody.
I have never done that
did it to me. You told me that my class clouded my judgment, and I hate you for it. But I don't hate you quite as much right now because I don't hold grudges. So I hate you like 30% right now. Plus, you're white. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, I've watched the last few VODs, and I really haven't. This must be really new, the plus you're white thing. This must be like fresh out of the DGG fucking meme files.
I just think it makes some people really mad to be mad. I don't think it makes me mad, but I know it makes Rem mad. Because Rem was tweeting earlier, well, actually, I have a great-great-great-grandfather's aunt, okay, who had a dog that was owned by an indigenous person. So I just like to remind people to bring him down a knob at the end of the day, you know?
Listen, I'm a Slav, okay? There are some prominent white identitarians who wouldn't consider me a part of their club. So I think I'm still free.
Most white identitarians seem to forget that the Slavic people were super fucking hated by Hitler, actually. It's pretty funny, but I'm sure you can, if Fuentes can weasel his way into white nationalism, I'm sure you can find a place there.
I can weasel my way out, yeah.
Okay, all right, I love you, buddy. Be careful, okay?
All right. Wait, is Rem even still here, or did he just leave?
No, I would like to say that Rem said I was here for publicity. Rem is actually the one that left the call and went live, plus he's white. Bye.
Try to get along with him in the future. He's gone. Well, Rem said you didn't moderate. I think I did about as good of a job as possible. That was definitely weird. Yeah, well, sure. I think I did a decent job. The Uyghurs are the closest thing to the situation. Yeah. I don't think there was any moderating that. Yeah. Your soft spot for Destiny was showing? No, I think that Destiny and Rem were just like at each other's throats because they have a long-term like habit of doing that. But if I wanted to actually like discuss those ideas, I needed to engage with him as good a faith as possible. So I did, and I think I did an excellent job showcasing all of my points. I'm actually very happy with how I presented pretty much everything I believe in. I think I was able to hold him to certain like significant criticisms that I had. But I can't keep Destiny from shit talking Rem. I can't if I moderated that, then like that just would have been dumb. Also, fuck it, it's funny. I can't. Them fighting is really, really funny, okay? I've been listening to those motherfuckers fight since way before I ever had a platform, okay? Listen, I just wish you would have hit in his rhetoric harder. It was horrible plus ahistorical. Yeah, but when he's mad, I don't know how accepting he is. I'm always going to, oh right, okay, I got rid of that boulder. I'm always going to try and like, I guess, how do I phrase it? I'm always going to try and phrase my arguments in a way that I think will be amicable to Destiny when talking with him, because I think that he's very like hyper-triggered by lefties in general. So by avoiding certain tropes, I can, is this going to be a YouTube segment? It kind of has to. Yeah. Yeah, it's like defusing a bomb. Yeah, exactly. Destiny has a lot of very legitimate reasons to be upset with the left, so I think that by avoiding the standard mannerisms of that group, I do a bit of a better job conveying my points. Rem's argumentation style is off. Well, Rem, I mean, I agree with like pretty much everything Rem was saying. I'm not shit-talking him. I feel like he's shit-talking me right now. But, yeah, I'm not saying that I disagree with any of his points. Just, I am Destiny debates. I debate. Rem doesn't really debate, at least not as much. So, obviously, like, he's gonna, yeah. You never asked Rem what he was eating? Yeah, I fucked up. Ah, more gold! Fuck yeah! Why'd you block Rem? I never blocked Rem! BGG turns into woke skulls when it comes to Destiny? Yeah, a little bit. A lot of you guys really don't like him, which I totally get. And a lot of you guys think that I like simp for him or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with the way that I treat him. Why is he shit-talking you? You were mostly on his side. I was on his side the entire time, but rhetorically I just try to brush up on his points a little bit. Okay, I'll see what he's saying. No matter what Rem is saying, I really want you guys to not harass him, okay? He gets enough harassment from the Destiny community.
It's so ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. But Destiny doesn't care. Like, you know, Vaush wanted the content. And I don't think he cared enough about the personal issues that I have with Destiny. But he said he was going to moderate, and I would have hoped that he would actually moderate, instead of just engaging and talking past me whenever I try to say something. And when I try to come into actual, you know, when it came to the actual issues that I was trying to discuss related to that topic, I would be drowned out by Destiny making stupid quips about me. So, you know, there you go. But it's not bad faith. It is not bad faith if I literally tweeted what he said. I tweeted what he said. He said that if ultimately...
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, like, if you want to argue that I wasn't moderating, Destiny should be the one making that argument, because I challenged Destiny on almost every point that he made, and whenever Rem would speak, I would just try to steelman his arguments. Maybe you could argue I talked over Rem a lot, but I'm just a better speaker than him, and they were not having a productive conversation. I don't think I actually contested Rem's point a single time in the entire hour, like... Oh, this is corrupted ore. Oh shit, Casman's nice, thank you. We'll go over donos soon, guys. That's probably fair in this case, DPK.
Toss a coin to your streamer.
CWC via Rebellion. Didn't I ban you? There was one, I think, but yeah. The issue was you didn't contest Destiny just spamming personal attacks. Oh yeah, I can justify that. Rem and Destiny have been at each other's throats for ages. Like, I'm not going to get in the way of that. Like, that just feels weird to me. They've had a ton of discussions. They've argued all the time. They're constantly going back and forth at each other. I'm gonna be like, hey, Destiny, that was mean of you when you said plus you're white. Yeah, I'm not their couples counselor. I just wanted to talk about the ideas. And I did. Yeah, I know the enemies are very strong, yeah. Is Rem even white? Probably? I don't care. I don't know. That plus your white shit is good? Yeah, it's just funny, because I remember hearing that plus your white shit from, like, Tumblr back when I was a kid, and now it's, like, Destiny's doing it. It's just... it's all coming around. How do you like being more woke than Rem on black nationalism? True. Oh, hello. I think Destiny took you on a red herring when it came to about culture. Yeah, but that's why I wasn't talking about culture with Destiny. I was talking about sovereignty, because that's what I was more interested in. Go! What is this link people keep tweeting at me? Oh yeah, this is gonna be like the pedophile drama. Why do you keep linking it? You guys realize that by giving it attention, you're only bolstering it, right? You're turning it into drama? Why would you actually do that? It's like really stupid. You really want to bolster a bunch of people who think I'm a pedophile because like 5 months ago I liked an image of a Boku no Hero Academia drawing that was pornographic? Like, do you really want to like bolster that? How do you like your fire mace? It's pretty spicy. What about the potential content? Believe it or not, as much as I do generally enjoy content, I don't usually enjoy content when it's a bunch of people telling me, like, I'm a horrible person, you know? Yeah, I don't really care if Destiny was, like, being slippery or anything. I don't think he was trying to be. I think Destiny acts in super fucking bad faith when it comes to talking with lefties. So, honestly, just him not screaming is, like, a positive. Being able to talk to Destiny at all without some, like, crazy fucking back and forth is already probably a positive. Are we really deep enough to be getting the fucking mother slimes? You like my porn that much, Ari username? He said he 30% hates you now. Is that progress? That number will probably go up sometime in the near future, so don't get too attached to it, okay? Lol? Oh no. What's happening? Yeah. The Rem tweeting? Uh-oh. Is Destiny's friend tweeting? No, okay, we're good. No follow-up drama, boys. We did it. Is Destiny reaching out more because you're getting bigger? No, he's reaching out more because fucking Rem was on here. I don't think Destiny really isn't a clout chaser. I don't think he like gives a fuck about growth. That's why he plays League of Legends. I would have a much easier time defending, Rem when the, Wet'suwet'en people's, political structure wasn't hereditary and authoritarian. Yeah, well, I mean, this is like a cancelable opinion or whatever, but for the most part, like, I don't really like many indigenous cultures that much, you know? I like some of the basic foundational, like, tenets of liberalism. I like democracies and governments and stuff like that. So like, yeah, replacing them would be ideal, but you can't replace them if it brings harm to the people. In the same way, I don't really like religion, but I'm not just gonna like attack all religious people. You have to... What you want to do, like, ultimately is, you just want to structure society in such a way that the values that you care about most are most likely to win out. And if people have ideas that aren't really, like, gelling with you that well, you try and show them a better way. Yeah, maybe Gayfesh. Yeah, maybe moderating debates between multiple other people would be pretty fun, I think. I actually had a lot of fun just listening to them bicker, you know? Very refreshing. No problem, Mowo main. Every enemy is so strong. I promise you guys, normally in this game, slimes do not take like 20 seconds of backpedaling to kill. Normally you can just walk into them while like swinging your fists around. Just go in the Destiny Discord again, you can do that. I can't go in the Destiny Discord ever again, my dude. Would you moderate debates between viewers for a 100K stream? That does sound like it could be fun, I'll think about it. Destiny in chat, what? Okay, all right. Now, here's an exhibit of an edgy racist joke that actually is a joke. In case you guys were curious, this is what it looks like. It's actually possible to do it, but actually like make a joke in the process. How'd he snip that so fast? That was Kanye. Why can't I ever go in the Destiny Discord again? Because of the fucking drama, the poppy drama, dude. I can't go back in there. Are you kidding me? I'd get added every 8 seconds from someone. Fucking obnoxious. Oh, Shadow's Hereth. Yeah, of course, I completely agree. I mean, that's the position I took with Destiny, I think. No, Sam, I don't give a fuck about a Hightail. It just looks like fucking It just looks like Minecraft with a texture pack and a few mods. Yeah, apparently Pixie's next Bernie or Bust debate might be on YouTube, so I can go there. Fuck. Oh, Count Weebulo, we're nowhere near fucking our descent being done. Why? How does it feel getting colonized by Destiny? I feel like people accuse me of being cucked by Destiny, like, anytime I'm, like, in his area code, you know? Ah, shit, we're fucked. Up we go. I wasn't looking! The irritating example of 10 bucks. The debate kind of felt like it was Nixon versus JFK in a way. Nixon was said to sound good over the radio and JFK looked better in person. Rem had bad optics here. Yeah, Rem... that's fine. Rem is a wacky dude. Thank you, Comrade Crowpot. Very much appreciated. Well, yeah, Comrade Yamada. I don't hate Rem. I agree with him in sentiment. It's just a little bit frustrating to me that after our conversation, he would run back and go like, Vaush only cared about the content. It's a little frustrating for me, especially since initially, before Destiny came on, before I had any reason to believe Destiny would come on, I was just talking with Rem just so we could discuss the ideas, you know? So it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird for him to frame that as like me being a content hog when the initial context of the discussion... I know Frost 8K, I just kind of like it. Hey, thank you, Krobotkin12. Happy to have you here. Trans rights. Oh shit, we're being ghosted. Woo! $210 health. He seems to get upset and lash out at anyone. I think in this specific context, I feel like we shouldn't be too uncharitable to Destiny here with regards to, like, him being mean to Rem. They have a long-standing relationship. Like, I don't, like, it just seems weird. Like, they've known each other for years, and I'm supposed to be like, don't bully each other, guys. It seems kind of cringy to me. What do you think about the anti-porn sentiment that has appeared recently? I think it's pretty cringe. Haha. Put the blue slime banner up. Maybe block Caligula? What difficulty are you on? I'm on master difficulty, baby. The Surfs, yeah, you missed the Destiny debate. I would say it was pretty fun. I mean, not everyone would agree, I imagine, but... Thanks, Hosemads. Did we already have the mandatory lolly conversation? Yep, like every other stream. He runs over Rem's personality. Yeah, but I can't... There's a difference between moderating and me, like, trying to make them be nice to each other. When I said moderate, I just meant I wanted to actually, like, participate in and discuss the ideas. Make silk with the cobwebs and looms and craft the bread. Yeah, I need to. There, look! We dug up a bunch of stuff. Look at all this stuff. Look! What did we get? Well, not much useful, but it'll all come in handy later. We're using silver instead of tungsten in this world, right? Yeah, we have silver, so we don't need the tungsten. Or the copper, or the platinum. Put the ruby there, put the diamond there. Don't need the lead either. What are your thoughts on the Keemstar content, Nuke? Keemstar is a gigantic piece of shit. Any criticisms of him are warranted and valid. Seemed like you were mediating more than moderating. I mean, I don't know. That's true, Tristan the Bard. But I'm lazy. Where's the, This guy's the merchant. Shouldn't he have the thing? Piggy bank, that's right. Damn it. We have not seen the latest season of She-Ra all the way. We're still working on it. Yeah, you can put it on platforms. Yeah. Here, I'll just make a little table right here. There we go. Keep the gold safe. Oh man, that is so warm in here. No, I haven't finished Alien. I'm just having me some fun. Who is that? The zoologist. Oh, that's the furry! Okay, CWC, that's enough. Some weird pedo defense right there. Do you think Critical would do a stream? Probably not, no. Did Vaush talk about the Twitter lolly shit already? Yeah, it's pretty silly. Thought I banned that person earlier. What do you think of the political message of Kill la Kill? I mean, I don't know. It's fun. CWC Vow Rebellion is just trolling? I don't care. I don't think trolling is really funny when your trolling amounts basically to, like, woohoo, pedo shit. Shoe on Vaush, worse than Twilight. Okay. Worse than Twilight. Jesus, did this guy just come out of high school? Guys, remember when we were all saying, like, huh, that's almost as cringe as Twilight? Remember when I remember being like 14. Yeah, those were the days. Down here is where the action is, baby. Okay, we actually have a fair amount of gold. I think we can start building, like building for real. Yeah, Vaush is the Justin Bieber of the left. Exactly. Okay, that's 38 gold bars, which is a nice start. Thank you, Hyena. Why do you think a lot of your fans don't like Destiny but do like you? Do you think it's just based on your different politics? Part of it is different politics, but a lot of, excuse me. Part of it is different politics, but honestly, a lot of it is, again, just aesthetics. A lot of it is just people, a lot of it is just people who, like, my arrogance to them comes off as confidence, but Destiny's arrogance comes off as, like, misplaced bravado. You know, like his edgy memes are problematic, but my edgy memes are like funny. A lot of it just depends on your subjective preferences, you know? Now, obviously my politics are very different, and I do stand by the legitimacy of that difference, but that cackle was kind of cringe. I think people have a right to post cringe, but it totally was. There we go. Since you like to talk about Indigenous rights, talk about the Indigenous Australians. Aha! You are mistaken, my friend. I fucking despise talking about Indigenous rights. It's really complicated. It's so fucking complicated. Okay, I gotta do it in the grass. Plus, I am white. Hey, come on. What I really want right now is a hook shot. I have 2 topaz. I have 12 emeralds. Wait, does that mean I can just make it? Do I need 12 or 15? I need 15. Okay. Hook shots are a necessary movement item in this game. They're so fucking cool. Holy shit. Oh, fuck. I can't say anything about this because I'm trying to get unbanned from Twitch, but oh my god. Biden presidency policy points. Firmly reject the BDS movement, which singles out Israel, home to millions of Jews, and too often veers into anti-Semitism, while letting Palestinians off the hook for their choices. Ooh. Oh, baby. Yeah, I don't know how to justify this. I don't. Biden sucks. Still better than Trump, baby. Riding with Biden. The funny thing is, that could have been phrased so much better. What does he mean by their choices? Yeah, it's so menacing. But that's the thing, though. The weirdest thing is, that could have been phrased so normally. Here's the right way to phrase that if you're some kind of Zionist cuck or whatever. All you have to do is this, okay? Are you ready? Is everyone ready? Okay? We reject the BDS movement, which we feels places undue levels of blame on the state of Israel and its millions of Jewish inhabitants for the complicated geopolitical situation in which those countries now find themselves. Like, that's it. Like, that's all they would have to say, you know? Or they could say, like, we feel the BDS movement does not adequately distribute blame or responsibility with regard to the political situation there. But that would come off more neutrally. And I think they, like, just wanted to sound menacing to, like, the Palestinians or something. What's BDS? Pro-Palestine movement. The DNC really wants to... Oh, yeah, the gemstones are also... How long does it take for them to grow? How long? Make them grow. You place them too close together, I think? God damn it. Oh. I fixed it. They need to be in the dark? Okay. Why do people hate season 4 of Rick and Morty? Because you can't because you can't remain subversive while so clearly desperate to avoid meaningfully changing the status quo for your characters. That's the issue. Sounds pretty bad. What about me? Only FMA Brotherhood. I like the subversion of time travel, though. I thought it was funny. Can you elaborate on that take? Yeah, sure. Rick and Morty was really fucking good in its first season. I don't know if you guys remember because all you're fucking 12 years old, but that shit exploded. Right off the bat. It just fucking popped off. And the reason why it did was because it was so subversive. It wasn't just edgy. I mean, it was plenty edgy, but it wasn't just edgy. It felt like it was doing a sincerely good job of meaningfully satirizing and challenging some of the pre-established conventions of the sci-fi genre, of the buddy partner in crime genre, of all that stuff, even of family drama genres. But that can't work. You can't continue to meaningfully subvert expectation and challenge people's preconceptions, which is necessarily what made the show phenomenal to begin with, while maintaining the status quo in every fucking episode. So what episodes have we had now? We've had multiple episodes of Rick having a nihilistic existential crisis because he's a horrible human being and nobody loves him, really, except people do love him, so it's really weird for him to keep having these manufactured breakdowns. We've had Jerry meaningfully challenge and confront his cowardice and his inability to provide for his family. We've had the moms, I forget the name right now, the moms struggling with her own egotistical mannerisms while pushing past them and trying to be less selfless with regards to her expectations for her relationship. Beth, thank you, yeah. And we've had 18,000 episodes of Morty manning up and being better at understanding who he is, and yet all these characters are exactly the same. They're exactly the same. They haven't changed at all. Jerry is the exact same fucking coward that he always was. Beth is the exact same condescending, egotistical bitch to Jerry. Jerry's still a horrible fucking person because he's a coward. No, Rick is still an irreverent jackass, and the universe never calls him out in any of the horrible shit that he does. And Morty is still a useless, whinging dipshit who never actually gets any authority in his relationship with Rick because every time he bids for it, it gets reset the next time over. They ditched continuity in season 4. Yeah, that sucks. So they turned something that was cool and subversive and interesting, and they boiled it down into a fucking sitcom. So now Rick and Morty gets to run for 10 seasons, and it's going to be very well produced, don't worry. They'll have the tightest animation budget, so you can always see the gore splatter across the screen in all fucking 4K glory. It's going to look great, don't worry, 60 FPS. But the actual heart of what made the show good to begin with, is, as far as I'm concerned, just not there anymore. With that being said, the most recent episode, the acid vat one, I thought that one was pretty fucking funny. I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was good in the same way the first season was good. Sir Doug Ratman, I watched the first episode of Solar Opposites, and it was so bad and so cringy that I actually could not. I had to keep turning away to look at my girlfriend. I had to pretend I couldn't see it. I had to keep looking away. NBNV, I don't feel imposter syndrome because every time I interact with other people online, I get the impression they're fucking idiots, whether or not they're lefties or conservatives. You can call that egotistical or whatever, but goddamn if I had a lot of bad interactions on my stream. So I definitely don't have imposter syndrome. As for building confidence in your work, I don't know. I don't think that confidence in your work should stem from other people's perception of your work. I think it should stem from the happiness that you feel when you produce art. Hey. Do you think you're a better debater than Destiny? It's impossible for me to quantify that, and if I did attempt to quantify that, it would only make me look incredibly egotistical. Oh no, I haven't seen FMAO 3, Lone Cat. Yeah, Big Red, sorry. My standards have been set pretty goddamn low. Flare gun, suspicious looking eye. Healing potions, gravitation potion, recall potion, glow stick, gold coins, nice. Why do you think so many people suck at making arguments? I think the internet has generally made it better for people to form circle jerks and never escape their echo chambers. So with that being, like, the case, people aren't really incentivized to learn how to appeal to the general population anymore. They're incentivized to learn how to appeal to, like, their existing group of people. Like they don't, it doesn't matter to them how to meaningfully engage with people who disagree with them. Please tell me you don't stand by this take anymore? What the fuck is this?
Okay, so if you were to... So...
Vaush defending pedophilia? Oh, this thing. Wait, you how new are you to the channel? The fucking vegan gains clip. I don't know, Kabosh. I need to think about it. Were people better at making arguments before the internet? I have no way of knowing whether or not that's the case. I just feel like right now a lot of the problems with people's rhetorical abilities does fundamentally stem from the way the internet leads people to behave. That was to illustrate no ethical consumption under capitalism, right? Yeah, a lot of people like just take that and have run with it and how I'm like a mega pedophile or whatever. God, 100 damage from having a bone thrown at me. Holy fuck. Am I still planning to talk to Paul Zigo? Yeah, I'm planning on scheduling something soon. How do you define cultural? There are a lot of really tough questions coming in through chat right now. You really throwing a lot of big thinkers at me, you know? How hyped are you for the new Warhammer Total War DLC? Oh, it'll make greenskins more fun to play, right? That'll be nice. Why are there more vegans on the left than the right-wing political spectrum? Because the left fundamentally, like, is about caring about people, and the right is about finding excuses to not have to care about people. And if that works on people, it works on animals too. I think the big optics problem with the vegan gains argument is that clothing and computers don't have to be produced with child labor, slavery and abuse, but the potential way to ethically produce those option in the right material conditions, but it'll never be true of child porn. Yeah, it's just literally irrelevant. I've heard a lot of people say that, but it doesn't actually factor into the moral conundrum. Why would the future possibility of an action being moral detract from a comparison in which it is presently immoral? Do people think that I would continue to make that argument if we lived in a world with ethical commodity consumption? It's just not, it's not actually, like, relevant to the moral, but people think that, like, they've, like, found it. Oh, I can keep it out! Hey, whoa, chill. Hey. Oh shit, another house. God damn it, we were almost in. Oh well. Am I mid-game right now? I'm still in the extreme early game. Why don't you use the minecarts? Because I'd instantly die. Loathing isn't a joy because of the suffering. Tier Plats, the reasons why you consume a product don't factor into the harm that's done by it. What kind of relevance is that? Like, oh, it's not as bad when we buy all our products from child slaves because, well, we don't want them to be child slaves. Like, that doesn't mean anything. It's completely irrelevant. Hop. Spooky. You are completely safe while in a minecart, dude? No, you're not. I've been hit while in a minecart. Yeah, weekly winner. Just like, they don't care anymore. There's never gonna be any progression. I like the graveyard, guys. Quit being mean. I like the graveyard. Do you know about the new luck mechanic? Yes. Yeah, of course, Lone Cat. Can we discuss the Mexi discussion? I feel like you guys talked past each other. Yeah, obviously. I've talked about the Mexi discussion, but I still hold most of the fault in her. The only mistake that I made during the Mexi discussion was I continued to say that I value winning, but it doesn't seem like I got her to understand that by winning I meant, like, arriving at the most correct position. Can I talk with you about it? No, that's fine. I've already had a fuck ton of people come at me with some, like, really weird parasocial feeling. Huh, you can just farm gems, huh? Would I ever watch FMAO3? Sure, I don't know, maybe, yeah, possibly. I don't really have strong opinions on it, on that particular subject. Why are so many people simping for Mexi? I don't know. No torches next to the saplings? God, I fucking hate you guys. You're all so annoying. Jesus Christ. Give me the fucking death of me. Did I read that tweet thread from Aiden Wood? Who the fuck is Aiden Wood? Love you too, Hyena. I'll check that in a second. Yeah, she also did just stop listening to me, which, you know, a big meme. Yeah, I'm excited, Hyena. Will I still be talking to AJW? Yeah, I think that's next Tuesday. I forget what we're talking about. It doesn't really matter. I have no respect for these people. What day is Natalie coming on? I don't know. Tell her to respond to fucking Twitter DMs faster. Have you played a lot of Terraria before? Yeah, but it's been a long time. Let's go. Aiden Wood. What is this? I figured with all the debate bro discussion, this would be an appropriate time to share some of my thoughts on this issues. This person has less than 1,000 followers. Why would you... All these tweets have like a few likes on them apiece. Why would you assume that I had seen this? Holy shit, this is the longest Twitter thread I've ever seen in my life. This is legit. I think this is like 90 Twitter tweets. I don't know if I can read all that right now. Too much. Would you like to debate and destroy Keemstar? The fuck do you mean debate on what? Keemstar is like a man-child. Like what would I debate him on? Do you think Keemstar is a gnome? He's Gnot. Tell you that. You don't remember the anti-Chapo tweet thread? Oh, I remember the anti-Chapo tweet thread. It's funny now that I'm a little bit anti-Chapo, you know. Why our left is so accepting of shoe on head. I swear there's a new thread like this posted every fucking 5 days. Some people stretch the we should try to rehabilitate people if possible argument. So far they end up defending people with shit politics just because they have some non-gross position. Even worse, many of these people are brochureless themselves trying to cover for their own shit politics. Nice meme. Dude, Chew on Head is legitimately more progressive than like 98% of the country. If Chew on Head is too reactionary to be a part of your coalition, and you don't want to accept a 1.4 million subscriber YouTuber into your fold because you're unwilling to accept that, you just want to kill your movement, dude. Whatever, have fun. Enjoy. Nah, the Black Hand. I'm happy enough with how the game plays. I don't like mods. Debate Keemstar on mental health. What would the point be? I would say, hey, mental health exists. Here are some studies. And he'd be like, no, let's get right into the misinformation. No, it doesn't exist. You're just weak, lol. I had a friend who said he was depressed, but then he wasn't, lol. Like, I literally get like 60 IQ shit. Like, I'm not gonna... Plus you're white. It's true. Why is Keemstar so dumb? I don't know. Didn't that guy used to be like a massive fucking racist? Or like he used to present as one or something? He goes on the kill stream all the time, doesn't he? Like, isn't he like legitimately probably some kind of white nationalist? There goes my hero. Watch him as he goes.